Good evening and welcome commissioners, participants, and interested parties to the February 3rd, 2022 meeting of Cohasset Conservation Commission. I'm Chris McFarland, Chairman of the Conservation Committee. We're running tonight's meeting as we implement the Massachusetts and Cohasset Wetland Protection Act and Cohasset Stormwater Management Regulations. We'll be operating tonight's meeting using a Zoom platform and ask the public who wish to speak to enter your question or comment in the chat box. Please include your name and address. Only those who include name and address will be read. Present this evening on behalf of the Conservation Commission, our Conservation Administrator, Angela Giso, and Town Conservation Agent, Charlotte Patel. I'll now take a roll call of commissioners and associate commissioners. Please respond by repeating your name and saying present. William Ashton.
William Ashton, present.
Tom Bell.
Tom Bell, present.
Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, present.
Eric Eisenhower.
Eric Eisenhower, present.
Jay Pampare.
Jay Pampare, present.
Chris McFarland, present. And 1 second, Trisha's connecting to audio. Well, let's do Associate Commissioner Chris McIntyre.
Chris McIntyre, present.
Okay, and Patricia Grady, are you here?
I am here, but I don't have video for some reason, so I'm working on it.
Okay, very good. So tonight we have a quorum of 7 members. It's been a first in a very long time of having 7 members. So tonight's first hearing is NOI 22-03. I'd like to read it in the notice of public hearing in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetland Bylaw, and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw. The Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, February 3rd, 2022, starting at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for notice of intent 22-03 from the United States Coast Guard for repairs and replacements of existing aid to navigation structures. The public is invited to offer public input on this application in writing to Charlotte in advance of the hearing, and can also attend via the Zoom platform. Okay, Charlotte, do you recognize who might be presenting, and could you elevate them to participant?
Yep, we have Steve Hoffman from McFarland Johnson representing the applicant.
Okay.
Everybody.
Good evening, Steve.
Yeah, thanks for having us here. Thanks for the introduction. So I'm here with McFarland Johnson, representing the U.S. Coast Guard. I don't know, my screen was a little funky. I just got added as a, I don't know, I wasn't seeing everybody here. So Kirk Ryden or Thomas Duchar may be here as well with Appledore Marine Engineering. But we're here on behalf of the Coast Guard, and I'll just give you a brief overview of the project and then open it up for any questions or comments from the commission. So this project, the Coast Guard is proposing to replace 5 aid to navigation structures that are located in Massachusetts Bay. Each one is located in a different municipality. The Cohasset Channel Light 8 aid to navigation structure is located within the seaward jurisdiction of the town of Cohasset and consists of a 5-pile timber substructure that supports an 8-foot by 8-foot timber deck. The existing substructure is located within the land under the ocean resource area, with water depths in the project area ranging from approximately 8 feet at the mean low water to 17 feet at the mean high water elevation. Overall, the existing timber piles and the bracing are heavily deteriorated, and the substructure is in serious condition and is in need of complete replacement. So the existing structure will be removed in its entirety and then replaced with a new structure that'll be founded on 5 12-inch timber piles and will include a new deck, ladder, and safety climb system, new day boards and lights, as well as a designated raptor nesting platform. The new piles will be installed using a vibratory hammer, and they will be driven into to the depth of the bedrock. So the installation of the proposed piles will result in approximately 4 square feet of impacts, so not a very big area. And the contractor will be required to submit an environmental protection plan, a dirt and dust control plan, as well as a turbidity control plan prior to construction. The structure also happens to be located within a Mass Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program designated priority habitat of rare species and estimated habitat of rare wildlife. Preliminary coordination with Natural Heritage was completed, and Natural Heritage identified the least tern as the species associated with these habitats. And in order to avoid potential impacts to nesting terns along the shoreline, no pile driving activities will occur during the active nesting season, which is from May 1st through August 15th. The Natural Heritage has reviewed the proposed BMPs that were included in the NOI package. And informally, they indicated that they didn't have any concerns and didn't anticipate any additional conditions or restrictions on the project. However, we haven't received a formal response at this time. However, a copy of the NOI was submitted to Natural Heritage as part of the streamlined WPA MESA review process, and they have 30 days to respond. So we're looking at a February 18th for the deadline for the MESA response. The project is also located within the range of some federally listed species, including Atlantic and short-nosed sturgeon, sea turtles, the North Atlantic right whale, and fin whales. As I mentioned in the beginning, there's a nesting platform proposed. That's because there's an existing osprey nest located on the deck of the existing structure. And so again, in order to avoid any impacts or disturbing any birds, we've included some BMPs and conditions that comply with the Migratory Bird Treaty Act as well. And so the existing nest will be removed sometime between September and February when the ospreys are in their wintering grounds, and the nest will be deemed inactive during that time. And according to the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, inactive nests do not require a migratory bird permit or any other authorization for the removal of the nest. And sort of as a way to help mitigate that as well, the proposed project includes that nesting platform to help encourage future nesting opportunities for either that bird if it comes back or just other ospreys in the area. What else? A copy of the NOI was also submitted to the Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries for review. We received a response from them a couple of days ago, which I forwarded to Charlotte. DMF didn't have any additional questions or concerns regarding the project as proposed. Additional measures will be taken to avoid and minimize impacts to fish and other marine wildlife. Those are outlined in the NOI package, and happy to discuss any questions or speak to those further. And finally, construction is anticipated to occur this year, but depending on the bidding environment and availability of materials, as well as a variety of other factors, it could potentially get pushed out into 2023. And as far as the duration of construction, it's anticipated to take approximately 2 to 3 weeks for the entire project to be completed. That includes the removal of the existing structure and the construction of the new structure. So it's a pretty straightforward project with minimal impacts. There are some concerns, but I think we've tried to do our best to sort of address all of those up front. So I'll open it up if anybody has any questions or comments. We're happy to discuss those now.
Charlotte or Stephen, do either of you have a plan that you could just show everyone the location?
Yeah, give me 1 sec. I can share my screen. I've got it. Do you want to see the actual plans or like just a location map?
A location, please.
Yep. Just bear with me here, almost there.
It's in the ocean.
Yes, we know that much. Thank you. The 8 to 18 feet of water gave that away.
So here's the location. I'm not familiar with any of the landmarks that you might be able to call out, but it's off the coast, approximately it's about 1,000 feet or so.
Just off of out of Whitehead.
Here's another. I think I have another figure without all the resource mapping on it that might be easier to see. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Charlotte, do you have anything to add to this application?
Yeah, I wasn't able to make it out to the site with the harbor master, but I did give her a heads up about this project and she didn't have any comments. Also forwarded it to Department of Public Works, who also didn't have any comments. I did, instead of a site visit, I did put my questions in the OneDrive for the commission, just in case they wanted to see what kind of questions I asked when I was reviewing the application. And yep.
I did see the correspondence back and forth, Charlotte. So thank you for the in-depth review there, and
No
thank you
problem.
to the applicant for the comments that went back. And I'm satisfied with the great questions, great review, and satisfied with the comments that came back. I guess it just looks like we would just need to condition this such that the project would not occur, no activity would occur between May 1st and August 15th. Is that correct?
That's the BMP that we included to avoid impacts for the terns that may be nesting in the vicinity. That's their active
Okay.
breeding season. So
And then so with a time frame after that, the nest could be removed, it appears, shortly after the August 15th deadline, anywhere from September to February. So I think you, in a perfect world, you'd probably be shooting for, although, you know, it doesn't freeze out there, although it gets pretty cold, you'd probably be shooting for an October, November, December time, early December timeframe.
yeah, just to clarify, the nest concern on the actual structure is the removal of the osprey nest, so there may be two conditions. And we have a BMP, there's slightly different timeframes. So the osprey nest that's on the actual structure, that will be removed sometime between September and February. That's the inactive season for osprey. And then there'll be no pile driving activities from May 1st through August 15th. And that time of year restriction is for the nesting terns that could potentially be in the vicinity of the project on the shore.
Got you. Okay.
So I'm just gonna, Jay, I'm gonna actually ask you about this. Does this project need notification to abutters?
I don't know who the abutters would be on this. It's a great question, but I mean, I don't know who the abutters would be.
Now, the only reason I bring it up is if the terns can feel the vibration, are the people at the tip of Whitehead gonna feel it and have problems? So I'm just.
Well, you know, the abutters are within like 300 feet, within 100 feet and the 300 feet. I don't know. It looks like someone's, the abutter notice is coming up here. I don't know. Maybe Charlotte could answer that, but you know, the abutters is typically only a couple 100 feet. I don't know if there are any abutters within a couple 100 feet.
Yeah, for properties, it's 100 linear feet, but then for properties bordering on the water, it's 300 feet. So Steve, correct us if we're wrong, but I think we're outside that 300 feet,
Yeah.
100-foot radius.
Yeah, we're well beyond that buffer, and that's why we didn't notify any abutters. And as far as any sound or vibration concerns, the time of year restrictions more out of sort of an abundance of caution. I don't think that the vibratory hammer and driving timber piles, I don't anticipate it. Like I said, it's probably about 1,000 feet offshore. I don't anticipate there being any sort of effects that could be felt or heard on land. And the time frame of construction is also relatively brief. We're looking at 2 to 3 weeks max, so it would be very short term and temporary in nature.
And how many of these are you doing on the coast? Looks like Howell, Weymouth there. How many structures are you putting in?
There's 5 total. They're all replacement of existing structures too that are just in need of replacement.
You're gonna do this over the course of a couple months. Once you start, you're gonna keep going.
Yeah, that would be the plan. It's obviously dependent on weather and other factors, but
Okay, that makes sense.
Stephen, there's a number of diagrams here, pages and pages of unusual looking objects here. Which is the one that's going in? Are you putting in Cohasset? I see about 18 pages of drawings and photographs.
sure. You're looking at the plans.
Yeah, I'm looking at your submission.
Um,
And
Still
I think it's pages 15, 16, and 17. But I'm having problems finding those numbers. So
I'm not sure. So I'm sharing my screen still. Are you looking at like the plan diagrams?
I'm looking at Massachusetts Bay Repair Massachusetts. It's got all the photographs of the various items. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the one we're getting?
You'll see down in the bottom right corner,
Yeah.
it has this is the Boston main channel light. So it's one project. So we included everything, all the plans. Let me just find I'll give you the page numbers in a second.
Oh, I see.
So
I got
here's-
it.
That's it.
It's kind of
Yeah,
hard to view it. I'm viewing it on my phone. My computer isn't working. So
Yeah, it's probably tricky to view these plans given the size of them on a phone, but yeah, it's in the PDF, it's pages 62,
all right.
and you'll see
There
down in
we
the
go.
corner here. There's
I
a
see.
photo of the nest there on the platform as well.
So the object, what we're looking at now is what you're taking out, right?
Yep, that's the existing structure. The proposed structure's shown here, which more or less in-kind replacement with some minor modifications to the like the nesting platform and those features. But as far as the structure goes, it's a 5 timber pile substructure, just like the existing.
Eric, in that PDF, it's on pages 14, 15, and 16.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You're very astute. Okay.
The right-hand corner of the bottom of the page, a little box that says
Okay.
that.
And a stupid question. What's wrong with the current structure?
The current structure, it's not necessarily
work?
clear in these photos, but it's an older structure. It's been there. I don't know when it was originally installed, but there's just the timber piles are deteriorating, and it's been identified as in serious condition and in need of replacement. It's just an old structure.
All right.
Any additional comments?
No comments.
I'll entertain a motion.
Jay Pimparo make a motion to issue an order of conditions for the U.S. Coast Guard project NOI 22-03 with a specific condition that no activity is to occur in the time frame of between the time frame of May 1st and August 15th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Having heard a motion, a second to issue an order of conditions for NOI 22-03. Take a roll call vote. William Ashton,
William Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower,
Aye. Eric Eisner, aye.
Trish Grady,
Trish Grady, aye.
Jay Pampari,
Jay Pimparo, aye.
and Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 700. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Charlotte, while you bring in the next attendees or applicants to present, I'd like to read into the record notice of public hearing for NOI 22-04 at 270 Forest Avenue. In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetland Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, February 3rd, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for notice of intent 22-04 from Eric and Renee Bishop to raise and rebuild a single-family dwelling within the buffer zone at 270 Forest Avenue.
Hi there, good evening. For the record, my name is Caroline Reese from Cavanaro Consulting in Norwell, Massachusetts. I am representing the applicants and homeowners, Eric and Renee Bishop, who own and reside at 270 Forest Avenue. And I believe they may be on the call. I'm not sure.
Thank you, Caroline. I just promoted them.
Great, great. May I share the screen or can you pull up the
Please.
site plan?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Okay. There we go. Looks like here we go. Okay, bear with me. And here we go. I'll bring up the site plan. It's kind of focused in, but that probably does the job. This is to raise and rebuild a single family home at 270 Forest Avenue. The lot, as you can see, the full lot is shown over here. Can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay, on the right hand of the screen. And as you can see, it's a very unique shaped lot. Once you account for zoning setbacks, really the only adequate space to build is up in this western portion of the lot, this rectangular area. And that's where the existing home is. And that is also where a driveway easement to access the home is, right over here. And the existing house is non-conforming due to side setback. There are a lot of constraints in this, what we consider adequate buildable area. There is a bordering vegetative wetland, which you can see here.
I'm sorry, would you mind just blowing that up a little bit, please?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course. Let me go. Is that all right? I kind of want to, can you see that?
Yeah,
okay?
that's great. And if you start to zero in on a few things, feel free to zoom in as well a little bit more. Thank you.
Great, great. So focusing on this portion of the lot where the existing home is, you can see the outline of the existing home here. This area has a lot of restrictions as well. There is a bordering vegetative wetland that was flagged and extends from the north and west sides of the lot. North is over here. There is ledge here on the east side of the lot. We have the zoning setbacks. There is the existing septic tank and septic line that extends to another easement on the west and south sides of the lot. And then we have a driveway easement. So the property has to be accessed over here on the south side of the lot. And it's a narrow lot. So it's a tight fit. But the owners considered those options and came up with a footprint. The proposed home is here with the yellow hatching. I think you're familiar with that. And the existing home is over here with the gray hatching. And the home is slightly bigger, only about 200 square foot larger, but they came up with a footprint that decreases impervious area in the 50, increases distance from the wetland, decreases total impervious area on the lot, and removes this side non-conformity setback. And as you can see, it's tough because with the bordering vegetative wetlands here, about 40% of this area lies within the 50-foot buffer, and pretty much in most of the lot lies almost 100% in the 100-foot buffer. So the proposed building does decrease impervious area, including this spa in the 50, from about 1490 square feet to about 1060 square feet. They shifted the house essentially to the south. The total impervious area on the lot decreases by about 60 square feet. The minimum distance to the bordering vegetative wetland on this north side has been extended from this corner of the covered porch. That's about 48 feet, where the original dwelling or the existing dwelling is about 33 feet. The layout as proposed provides only about 43 feet from the front entrance to this south boundary. And we figure that's probably just enough room to park a couple cars and perform a 3-point turn. It'll be tight, but it's the lot to access the driveway easement. It's a long, narrow easement. It would be tough to back out of. I know I couldn't do it. So given all those restraints, they've come up with this layout, which we feel tries to take into account all the issues in the area. There is a pervious deck on the north side. That is a little spa plunge pool here as well. Some mitigation plantings, native plantings have been proposed throughout the property. And 2 areas of ledge to shift the house away from the buffer would have to be kind of removed. They're very shallow, exposed areas of ledge at this point. We're pretty comfortable anticipating that the total cubic yardage of ledge to be removed would be under the 10 cubic yards in the zoning amendment. Just enough to kind of create a pathway around the house and maybe direct drainage away from the house. With that, I guess I'd like to return it for questions. I'm sure there may be some.
Charlotte, is there any information you'd like to share with us before we have commissioners ask questions?
Sure. Yeah, I have gone out to the site. I can pull up pictures if anyone would like to see. And I will second Caroline's point that it is very tough to back out of that narrow driveway. And just to add a note, there are 2 trees in the front yard that are marked to be removed with X's. I'm not sure if you guys can see it there. And there is an abandoned well on the property. And there's just some plantings in there right now, but that's where the proposed driveway will go.
Could you show us while we're on it where the trees are that are going to be removed?
Yeah, I'll try to get a pointer. Can you see one is
I
here?
can see your pointer.
Okay, one's here.
Yeah.
And one's here. And again, that's necessary to shift the house to the south away from the resource area. I'm showing me a picture, so.
And what is the situation with the septic system, design, tank, field, etc.?
It's, there's an easement located to the infiltration field, but they plan to keep the utilities and try to minimize disturbance, keep the existing septic at where it's located.
Is it just a holding tank?
Here's just the holding tank, and then the line comes down to the rest of the system, which is offsite on an easement.
Okay, so the leach field is off-site.
Correct.
Right.
And is that oil tank that's shown there coming out with the demolition? Or is that remaining?
The plan is now it's a double barrel tank in good working order. They would like to look into replacing it with propane, but for the time being, they plan on keeping it as is. They haven't quite decided if they could trade it out, but for now, the plan is to keep it as is and use it. It's double barrel, doesn't have a problem, but they're going to look into that as construction progresses if it's approved.
I'm having some problems understanding what exists now and what's incremental. I look in the upper right-hand corner, you see there's an outline of an old home and a new, I think. Could you just look at in the upper right-hand corner, slide your drawing to the left?
Slide it to the left.
Yeah, and you'll see a plot with an outline. There you go.
Oh,
There.
okay. I'm sorry. That is only the proposed dwelling.
Okay. There's
That's
nothing. Nothing existing there.
No, nothing existing there. That's for zoning. The existing home measures 5 feet from that property boundary. There you go.
Eric, if you give me a second, I'm just going to outline the existing.
Thank you. That's about it.
He gets paid big bucks for this, by the way,
That is
too.
good. I know. I was gonna try to bring up my pen, but then it gets messy.
Our
That's
chairman
great.
had a very steady hand.
Yes.
That's the existing, and then the proposed is doing something like this.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, I'm moving real fast.
Close enough.
Yeah, there's a 200 square foot covered porch proposed just on the north side a little bit, but that's the majority of it.
The porch is here.
Correct.
Does that look better, Eric? Understand that?
Thank you.
And then the patio is, I'm just gonna make an X instead of a outline.
Mhm.
Patio is there.
That's great.
What is the, kind of need some glasses to zoom in there, the existing foundation elevations, are they staying the same? Or
Pretty
will
much.
it
They're
be-
gonna
I
try
mean,
to pretty much stay the
Taking
same and
out the
take it
existing, yeah, is that 17 feet?
17 to 17. They're trying to kind of use what they can, and
Okay,
yes.
all right. So not really a lot of heavy excavation, it's more demolition than anything.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the home does extend over here to the south, but, and
Yeah.
yes.
Okay,
So the only building that's happening within the 50-foot buffer that is not inside the existing footprint would be this small little corner right here. Is that correct?
Correct, correct, yes. It comes up here, just that tiny bit.
But it's only that little bit that's within the 50-foot buffer.
I think you double that, go up twice as tall. It really ends here.
Yeah, but that would be within the existing footprint.
Oh, correct. Yes, you're right. I'm sorry. Yes, just that little strip is outside the existing footprint.
Chris, did you have the other drawing that you had the red ink pen on?
Sorry, I got rid of it because
Oh.
once you move the drawing, it doesn't move with it.
Okay.
But I'll give you a quick on the existing again, because that's a pretty.
I know, I could try too,
That's
but
a simple shape.
Okay.
so I'm gonna assume that there's no underground natural gas line to this part of town right now?
no, and they're gonna keep existing utilities, pretty much because the footprint overlaps. They'll probably truncate where they hit the house, but they don't plan on moving utilities.
I mean, just from a BMP standpoint, I know this is obviously going to be a brand new home, and just looking at options as far as heating goes, from a conservation or an environmental set of eyes, certainly the oil tank, while it may be double lined and have double overflow structure, etc., propane would certainly be a lot better as far as spillage goes. So we can't tell you how to heat the house, but if propane could be used, it might be more, for a spillage as far as potentially getting into the wetland, etc., would be a preferred method, but we can't tell you how to heat the house.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there.
Well, while we're on the subject, you have an abandoned well here. And presumably there's still a well bore that exists. It might have to be rehabilitated. And depending on how deep it is, if it's let's say it's 100 feet, you have a great opportunity to put in a geothermal system here by using that existing abandoned well. And that would put you way ahead in terms, if they plan to live here for a while, basically they stop paying utilities. There's no fuel necessary other than the electricity to run the pumping system. If this were me, I'd be all over that. I'd love to have a geothermal system in my place.
Mhm.
So no more oil, no more propane, almost totally green. It is green if you're getting green electricity.
Mhm.
So that's an opportunity that I would hope that you could bring up with your client.
Mhm. For sure. That's a good idea.
But again, getting back to having an oil tank within the 50-foot buffer, if we can get rid of that, we'd really like to see that go. You know that? I mean, as Jay said, it probably has a lot of fail-safe stuff, but it's oil stored within the 50-foot buffer, and it's just it's already there, so we can't tell you not to, but we'd really like to see it go, I think.
Mhm.
And
The owners did.
maybe a geothermal system is the way, not just to make it go away,
Yeah.
but to go pretty green here doing it.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether the state has subsidies for geothermal, but they might. That's another thing to look into, and perhaps even the federal government in terms of tax credit.
That's a good
And then,
point.
just one more quick comment. You have the HVAC pad on the other side of the house. If that oil tank is actually feeding the HVAC system, or at least the heating portion of it, I would think that you would probably want to have that oil tank as close to the boiler or heater as you would. It's on the complete opposite side of the house. So to Tom's point, if you can get that tank out of the 50, that really would be better, or further away from the wetland, than relocate it on the other side by the HVAC pad would be a preference.
Mhm.
Another plug for geothermal, it's heating and cooling.
Yeah.
Is the section of the foundation adjacent to the oil tank that's part of the existing dwelling going to be reused for the new, or is that foundation going to be replaced?
I think they're hoping to keep as much foundation. They're not going to know until their contractor gets in, but the plan is to keep as much as they can, I think, and keep that footprint.
It is awfully close to that. Is that a below grade, or is that a basement level? Is like, how deep does that go?
The foundation?
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure. Maybe the homeowners can speak to it. I don't believe they have a full basement, but you know what? I'm not sure. I don't have architecturals.
It's a crawl space.
Yeah, thank you.
I've been out there. It's pretty wet. If you have a basement, I bet you got to pump the water out of it.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah, it's a crawl space, and yes, it is very wet. We would not want to put a basement in.
Good. Yeah, that was the reason I asked, is because if they are demoing that foundation right against, it looks like the oil tank would be, be hard not to impact the oil tank if that if you're doing demo in that vicinity. So
Yeah, we've communicated that we want to actually get rid of the oil tank to our builder. We're just trying to figure that out, but that is the plan.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to get there, yeah.
And we appreciate the feedback on the geothermal. That's not something we explored. We explored propane.
Mm-hmm.
Is the rest of your lot wooded?
All around it, yeah, yes.
So right off the edge of the driveway, that's all woods? That's all
It would look like a U around the property where all the woods are.
Probably about like, see how my hand is, pretty much kind of like something like that. I mean, here it's open to the other neighbors. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, the line towards the top of the screen goes much further because we have our neighbor's property, but that's essentially the gist. Yeah, you're along our property line, but there's the neighbor to the west of that. There's a good portion.
Over here.
Yeah.
More trees up there. Okay, like something. I don't know.
Yeah, even higher, but it's okay. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, up there.
I'm sorry, you're saying that it's woods between that line and the house, or away from the line?
Over here more, probably.
Away.
Or up north.
So
up
is there,
here.
would there be an opportunity to plant some trees to replace the ones that have been removed?
Yeah, absolutely. One of them's actually dead, and the other one we would love to replace. And I think there's a lot of opportunity on the plot to add plantings. Yes. Any other questions or comments by commissioners?
No, my only comment is clearly there's a lot going on here. There's an existing home that is probably saving this project in the fact that there's a significant amount of work going on in the 50. However, there is an existing home. It appeared that the square footage in the 50-foot buffer, of impervious area, was being reduced from 1490 down to about a little over 1,000 square feet. So roughly about 450 square feet of impervious area was being removed. It sounded by the removal or the pulling back of the house from the wetland, it appeared that the current house now is about 33 feet from the wetland, is being pulled back to about 48 feet. So, when I look at these projects, these are some of the things that I look at as far as trying to get as far away from the wetland and reducing any impervious surfaces. So commend the engineer for that, and not trying to just build on the existing footprint, and trying to be a little bit certainly cognizant of the 50-foot buffer, all the while trying to deal with the building setback. So I don't have any additional comments.
Was there a planting plan?
There is not.
I see you're using I'm using my cursor, but you can't see it. I'm seeing you're using the list of natives provided, but I'm just trying to see where you're planting.
They definitely have some along this north border and around, trying to kind of mirror the BVW for sure. Maybe more plantings, but that we've laid out.
Yeah, it doesn't look like you're doing a tremendous job of mirroring the wild BVW. I think you could do a lot more, actually. Have you seen the list of plants that are authorized for use here?
Yes. Yes.
I would say you could probably put in 2 or 3 times as much planting in this area as you've indicated, all right, safely. Could you show where the limit of work is? Because one of the problems we have with all these projects that nestle right up to the 50-foot is it's fine. Your drawing is in or out of the 50-foot. It seems under control. But I'd like to see where your bulldozers and all your trucks and your piles of timber are going to be, because I think those are as threatening to the 50-foot buffer zone as actual work itself. So could you show us the limit of work and the limit of storage of your materials, please?
I don't have storage on here. Here's the silt sock. So the limit of work will remain within the silt sock. That's to provide adequate room to move equipment around these north and west sides. I assume the driveway will be done last. I assume equipment storage will be near both the driveway and on the south side of the house where it's flat in this area. We could make note of that.
So there'll be no materials, no equipment that will access the area outside of that thick line that you call your sock.
Correct. That's our intention.
That is your limit of work. I'm sorry, I couldn't see a.
Yeah, that
label
gives
on
about
the
12 feet, so that should be pretty good. And this is right up to the property line, so we're limited there. And this gives about 12 feet, 14 feet for equipment to pass around. This is a deck and pool, which will go on last, but for the dwelling, I think, that's a reasonable amount of space for equipment. It's tight, but
Yeah.
doable.
There's only one access point to the property, and that's through the driveway. Everything else is wooded, and
Yeah. Stupid question. You're going to be inhabiting this property? You won't be finishing and then floating it on and selling it? It's going to be your house?
yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And is the house inhabited now?
Mhm.
Yep.
It's your home?
Yes,
Yep.
it is. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Carla, does this application need a stormwater permit?
So due to the reduction in impervious, and then they're altering less than 5,000 square feet overall, it does not need a stormwater. Caroline, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're altering, what was it, 3,500 square feet, or am I confusing that with the other project you have?
No, that's probably accurate. I did a very conservative estimate at about 4,000 and convinced myself we're below the 5,000 square foot limit, so.
Commissioners have no further comments. We'll just see if anyone from the public is interested in have any comments.
Just as a reminder to the audience, if you do have any public comments, please put them in the Q&A down below, please. Thank you.
Jay, without saying my vote at this time, I would like to say that if I was going to vote positively for this project, I would like to see trees to replace the two that are being cut down, at least two trees, 3.5-inch caliper trees, hardwood species planted on the property. I'd also like to have a condition that that the spa be the Conservation Commission does have a kind of best management practices pamphlet for the handling of water in the spa, because I'm sure there'll be turnover and dumping and removal, and being that close to the wetland, I think it's important that that gets followed very closely.
Understood. And I agree.
Yep.
I think there'd be ample room in the 50 to 100 along the Baumgartner's, if hopefully I pronounced that correctly, property line, where a couple of trees of 3-inch caliber could easily be replanted.
Yeah.
And note that the plan actually does say native plantings to be placed around dwelling, refer to the list of approved plants. But
Yes.
we can condition that to just plant a couple of smaller trees.
As well. Yeah. Okay. Well, without any comments, I see no comments from the public. I'm going to entertain a motion.
Jay Pimparo make a motion to issue an order of conditions for the project at 270 Forest Avenue, NOI 22-04, with a couple of conditions. One, the first condition being that there will be a revised plan be submitted to the Conservation Commission within 7 days that reflects the location of 2 trees to be planted of at least 3-inch caliper to be placed somewhere on the map. I would say between the 50 and 100, but they would be acceptable to the chair and the Conservation Commission agent. And then the second condition, I guess not really so much a of a condition, but to address the spa, to Charlotte, to make sure that we do have some language regarding how to treat the chemicals, maintenance, et cetera, of the pool and the spa, that condition and that verbiage that we have and boilerplate orders of conditions be included in this order of conditions.
Correct. Yeah, we have a standard boilerplate condition for the B&Ps for pools and spas.
Okay. So that would be the second condition.
Having heard a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Having heard a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions for NOI 22-04 at 270 Forest Avenue. Take a roll call vote. William Ashton,
William Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisenhower, aye.
Trish Grady,
Trish Grady, aye.
Jay Pampari,
Jay Pampari, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 700. Thank you very much.
Well, we would need a
Oh, sorry.
variance as well. Hold on here. Jay
Yes.
Pampari would make a motion to issue a variance for work within the 50-foot buffer for the project at 270 Forest Ave.
Second.
Having heard a motion, the second issue of variance for work within the 50-foot buffer and limited to that area up to the shown silt sock. Take a roll call vote. William Ashton,
William Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisenhower, aye.
Trish Grady,
Trish Grady, aye.
Jay Pampari,
Jay Pampari, aye.
and Chris McFarland, aye. The variance passes 700. Now I say thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
The next hearing this evening, I'll read the notice of public hearing in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw, Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw. The Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, February 3rd, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for notice of intent 22-05 and stormwater permit 22-02 for Liana and Ethan Myers to install a pool, patio, pool house, and assorted hardscaping and landscaping at 136 Atlantic Avenue.
Caroline, I do not see the owners, but please correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, I can't see the participants. I thought.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I don't see Myers.
It's Liana and Ethan Myers.
No, I don't see him. Okay.
Okay.
If you're there under a different name, just raise your hand.
Just FYI, ladies and gentlemen, school's out early tomorrow in Cohasset. Early dismissal due to the weather. It's your public service announcement.
Good.
Thank
You
you.
got the
Hey,
call.
you get to sleep in, Jay.
I didn't know, early dismissal.
Oh, that's early for you.
Okay.
All right, should I go forward?
Yeah, could you blow this up a hair before you do?
Certainly. For the record, my name is Caroline Reese from Cavanero Consulting in Norwell, Massachusetts. I am representing the applicants, Liana and Ethan Myers, homeowners at 136 Atlantic Avenue. The homeowners propose to construct a pool patio, and pool house in the rear portion of their lot, their developed lot. This lot is approximately about 2.6 acres. It borders, now that I'm zoomed in, but you can probably see Atlantic Avenue to the north and east sides. Here's the main dwelling, and it borders private properties on the remaining side. So you can kind of see, just to shoot you down, Atlantic Avenue comes here and around. Here's the dwelling. There's a driveway that comes up, a detached garage, a large tennis court area, and then in the rear yard is where the proposed work is. Is that big enough? Should I make that bigger?
Slightly bigger would be helpful.
Yeah, a little bigger, please. Thank you.
Certainly. that kind of shows it. On the lot, there are 2 resource areas that have been identified. One is a bordering vegetative wetland that extends from the east corner of the lot. The other is an isolated vegetative wetland on the north side of the lot, abutting Atlantic Avenue. As you can see, a portion of the work extends into the 100-foot buffer, the bordering vegetative wetland. So a notice of intent was filed, and the project would increase impervious area, including the pool, by about 2,600 square feet. So a stormwater permit application was submitted as well. The homeowners plan to petition locate the pool and patio along this area ledge, using it as a natural feature. There's a very steep drop off of the ledge here, and they plan to abut the patio up to this ledge. There is a significant drop in topography behind the ledge, so they bring in some fill to support the pool and patio, and support that with about 115-foot, I don't know if I should draw over it, retaining wall. That would be about a max height of 6.5 feet, maximum height in the corner. There's a 506 square foot pool house proposed as well here. To address the stormwater issues from the increased impervious area, 30 by 8 by 1 foot infiltration system was designed and is located at the toe of the wall. This will result in a decrease in peak flow and volume for all rainfall design events, and water from the roof leaders, from the pool house, and about 700 square feet of the patio is directed this way into a trench drain and drain system that will enter the infiltration system. The groundwater is very high back here. The ground is shallow. It's like kind of a little drop off that directs flow towards, looks like towards the, oh gosh, sorry, the isolated vegetative wetland. There's a little low area. The proposed work, I'm sorry, is, my cursor rolls, is over kind of, it's not really woods. I don't know why. I'm just gonna move real slow. Is proposed over kind of brush area. And what we found in some old plans from the late 30s is this area was developed as a garden area. So that may explain why there's more brush back in this area, low-lying brush. 2 trees are proposed to be removed as part of this project. They're outside of the 100, but those are the only 2 trees with a decent size that would be proposed to be removed. Let's see. There's significant landscaping proposed as part of this project. Up here in the elevated patio area, these plantings, and I do have a landscape plan. I don't know my plants, but I can bring that up. The plantings here are not native, but they're also non-invasive. There's some hydrangeas. There is a dogwood that I think is a native tree, but I can bring up the planting plan. But these plantings are separated from the BVW by the retaining wall, and then the plantings at the toe of the structure. Within the 100, that's about 12,000 square feet of native plantings and grasses. So that should provide, we're hoping that'll provide a buffer to the BVW in that area. And I think that's about it as far as the presentation. I guess I can open it back up to questions.
Charlotte, before we move on to questions, do you have did you make a site visit? And do you have anything to share with us?
I did, yes. So I can share pictures if people would like to see the site. But I did talk about with Caroline, you know, that we do have some documentation that was submitted that shows a planning board plan, I think from the 50s, showing it used to be a garden area. And then we did talk about, you know, being open to native planting suggestions from the commission for the planting plan. And then the ledge I can definitely show pictures of, but we did talk about, minimizing that, taking, as little of it away as possible. And they want to use it as that, natural wall, which would look good. But I can pull up the pictures from my site visit if anyone would like to see.
Yeah, I'd like to see some photos, please.
Carolyn, can I share my screen real quick? Or actually,
yes.
does anyone want to go do the plant? Do you guys want to look at the planting plan first, or?
I've already seen the planting plan. It has to be redone. Most of what we see there in the 1500 are not native plants. They clearly have not gone through our list, Charlotte. So you have to maybe sit down and rethink the planting plan.
Over here in the,
I'm looking on the left. That's the only one I can read. You have
Okay.
here endless summer hydrangea
correct.
from Japan, Kusa dogwoods from China. No,
Mhm.
what else we have? Okay, so I mean, I think you need to take our list of plants and sit down with your landscaper, whatever it may be, and put a new plan together that's consistent. That's all that has to be done. Very simple.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we did
guess
discuss
I
that
wish.
oh, sorry, go ahead, Caroline.
Oh, I'm sorry. The homeowners really had a vision for up there. I do understand, I don't know my plants, that on this side of the wall, they are some non-native but non-invasive plantings. This area measures about 85 to 90 feet from the bordering vegetative wetland, and it's divided by a wall, and then the plantings down below. I believe these are all native plantings, and to get the look they wanted up here, as I understand, I'm not the landscape architect and didn't participate in this portion, but to get the look they wanted up here, they tried to propose a significant amount of native plantings at the toe of the wall, open the wall. But the minimum distance from these plantings that are not native is about 85 to 90 feet from the BVW. But again, I'm not a landscape, so I'll defer, but I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, I did discuss that with the owners as well, to be open to planting suggestions from the commission. Mr. Chair, would you like me to share my photos, or?
Yes.
Share if
Well,
anyone-
no, I think we're on a,
Okay.
I think Eric's response to this is critical. I think that, and Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, your position is that within the 100-foot buffer, the plants should all be native plants, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you. Outside the 100-foot buffer, it's not our jurisdiction, but within the 100-foot buffer, it is our jurisdiction, and the commission would like native plants being used within that.
That's correct.
All right. Charlotte,
Okay,
yes. Now would
understood.
you show some pictures, please?
Okay, I'll stop.
Sorry, I have a lot of windows open. Oh, there they are. Okay, sorry about that. So I can just scroll through these. This is the backyard. They did propose storing equipment outside of the 100-foot buffer, which is on the site plan. That's the existing sport court. This is the spruce trees pictured here. There's 2 of them that will be removed per the site plan. This is the overgrown area. There's the spruce trees. This is the area where the pool is going to go. As you guys can see, there's a lot of brushings and vegetation there. This is the ledge.
Wait.
Oh, sorry.
Could you go back, please, Charlotte?
Sure.
So are those, you're saying this is the area where the pool is, are those trees in the area where the pool is?
Yes. What we marked is, I thought those spruce trees were a smaller diameter. Could you go back a photo? It's actually these large trees.
Oh, okay. It says
That we
spruce trees, I
counted.
think, on the site plan. That's why I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, they're right there. It's hard to
Right,
tell.
but those are outside the 100-foot buffer, so they're not within our jurisdiction. But I'm asking about these trees that you see in this. Is this part of the area that's being cleared?
No, just in the very forefront, maybe. I don't have perspective. That's the neighbor. That's actually quite a distance The larger trees you see in that picture will not be removed. There's the one.
Carolyn, correct me if I'm wrong, but are these the two trees? These ones that were near the spruce trees? Right near the existing ledge?
If that's the spruce trees on the right, it's hard to tell the perspective of where we're looking. That other picture showed them.
Yeah, those are
It's
different.
hard to say from this.
I
It
don't
looks
believe
like it
those-
could
those
be,
are not
but
spruce trees. Those are not spruces.
no. That may be the spruce in the bottom right corner. It's just hard to tell from the perspective.
Yes, it
but
is.
that oth-
That is it.
Yeah. There we go. Those are the two.
Yeah, again, they're outside the 100-foot buffer. They're not within our jurisdiction. What I'm concerned about is whether or not there are any other trees in that area that would be within the jurisdiction.
No, not large. It's all this kind of scrub area. This is,
Charlotte, have you
I call
walked
it
through
scrub.
there?
I don't know.
Charlotte, have you walked through there looking at the trees within the buffer zone and all that, or could you walk through there and just make sure that what Chris is thinking about is not the case?
I didn't walk too far in here because it was very overgrown, but I, at least on the site plan, it doesn't show any other trees are being removed. But Carolyn, please correct me if I'm wrong, but these trees on the edge of the border, I think, seem to be crossing into the neighbor's property or on the border of it. And then those are just pictures of the wetlands flags that were in the back.
Yeah, it's really kind of in that area. That looks, because I remember the balls. I can tell. But
Carolyn, would you mind putting back, if you could share your screen for a moment and just put back
Sure.
up the actual diagram? My question goes back to the elevations, and you might have to really blow it up. I'm looking at it on a different
Certainly.
screen here.
okay. That's the
Um,
landscape and then the site plan. Here we go.
Right.
And-
So that if you could blow that area up exactly right there would be great.
Okay,
That's actually a perfect size. So I see that you have done 2 test pits. The
Correct.
test pits are in an area where it looks like you have decent soil, but they seem to be away from where there's actually going to be some true digging. The proposed 1,200 square foot patio and the actual pool, I'm assuming this is an in-ground pool, are right up against that exposed ledge. And I know it drops off there, but my question is, what are the elevations over there as far as the bottom of pool? Is there going to be any digging into the ledge? Is it going to be a fill area or more of a cut area?
More of a fill area, quite a bit. Right here, you can see this is elevation 21, 22, 23. They're bringing this area up to elevation 27. So
Okay.
there will be some cut and fill. What we can tell is they're hoping that ledge is steep and they tried to leave adequate room to avoid having to blast ledge to place the pool. But the drop off here is about 23 feet. So you have about 4 feet of depth. The deep end will be 8 feet max, I think varying from 3 to 8 feet. And I think the deep end's over here. So they're hoping that as far as excavation, it'll be, just a couple feet maybe below that scrubby area, and the soil seems to support the brush there. So it doesn't seem too rocky there. So hoping it's a mostly fill project. The test pits were here for the infiltration system primarily to get coverage in that. So that was the main concern there, and make sure we could build an adequate system. But
and then so the pool house, if that also has an elevation of 27, You're
Right.
talking about, I see the 21-foot contour, and then I don't see it 20. So I'm sure it carries somewhere. So you're talking 6 to 7 feet
Yes,
of fill on one end up to no fill on the other end of the pool house.
right. Or they're gonna build this, they have a tall foundation wall. I don't know if they have to put fill quite under the pool
Yeah.
house.
Well, that was it going to be that? Well, if it's a foundation wall, then there's no need for any fill to be brought in at all, which would be great. But I don't know how you're going to carry what's going to be the area that looks like it's dotted between the pool and the pool house that's currently now. Yeah, that whole area there, that's only at 20 feet. That's going to have to be brought up by 6 to 7 feet as well.
Correct, under the patio it would be.
So that patio on the if you keep going up where your cursor is there, a little right there that drop off is. But what's the safety mechanism there, or is it that's gonna be like a retaining wall?
This is a retaining wall,
There's a
and then
fence
they
there.
have a fence in front of it.
Okay.
The wall is estimated to be a maximum this is about 25, 28 here. The top of wall, I have that on the plan, is estimated to be give or take about 26.8. So the ledge of the frame of the pool is 27. This is about 26.5. Top of wall 26.8. This is a fence proposed, or at least the extent of the wall for safety.
So there would be a 6 to 7 foot drop off that retaining wall.
Correct.
All right, it'll be exposed concrete.
It's a Versalock wall to the landscape below, but yeah. Correct.
And that's all
X block.
between the 50 and the 100, and then out of the 100 as well.
Correct.
Okay.
This area would be in there.
Yep. And there's no work in the 50 in this project, correct?
Correct.
So from what I'm hearing, it sounds like, Mr. Chairman, I heard a comment about an updated landscape plan to reflect the Cohasset Conservation Commission approved species list.
Yes.
So,
Is there
so
an
I'd like to talk-
urgency?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jay.
I was just going to ask if there was an urgency on this project.
That's relative. I don't know. Everyone's excited to get moving, but it is what it is.
Go ahead, Tom. Sorry.
Yeah,
You'll start digging in March, April, will you not?
Excuse me?
You'll start your digging in March and April? No?
I'm having trouble here. Let me turn up my volume. I'm having a little trouble there. One more time, if you don't mind.
Maybe it's me, yeah. I was supposing that this type of project would begin the earthwork in March and April.
Correct. I know, or possibly the fall. I do believe they said they had 5 small children and wanted to avoid the heat of summer because the kids are outside in the yard. But if they can't get to it spring, yeah, I know. But if it can't happen in spring, it would go to the fall. But I know they don't want to build, or what they indicated is midsummer.
All right.
Tom, were you going to say something, Tom?
Yeah, I want to get back to the classification of the resource. The state has indicated a potential vernal pool or pools on this property. Can you comment about that, Ms. Reeves?
Yes, we did find on Mass GIS a potential vernal pool. It's located directly under the house, like kind of smack dab in the center. It's hard to tell where it was intended because the house is dated from the 1900s. So there's just a data point. It's right about here, right about the E in existing, I would say. But because it's located under the home as a potential, we couldn't really find out where that was intended. There's certainly not water under the home. The ground slopes away. It's kind of,
Did you contact DEP about this?
I know I haven't.
Yeah. I took a look at this, looked at the topography here in detail, and I haven't contacted DEP either. It's my understanding that all of these were done, all of these potentials and all the potential vernal pools were done in one pass. I believe it was in 2010, if I remember right. And so the people that did it are still around. And I think that it would be good to explore what they had in mind here when they put that marker. They obviously, that house predates 2010 by over 100 years. So my own feeling about it was that they put it, there's a number of potential, what appear to be potential vernal pools surrounding this property and on this property. And what I've seen they do in the past is they don't put a marker for each one. They put a marker in the centroid of the cluster. So when you look at the topography of this, the so-called isolated vegetated wetland is a closed basin. It's like a bathtub. So that is probably one of the vernal pools that they've listed as potential.
That's
Not an
what we were
isolated
thinking.
vegetation, not an isolated vegetated wetland at all, but actually a vernal pool. Similarly, there's another closed basin just to the southeast of the pool area. It's actually substantially larger than the wetland scientist has laid out, which puzzles me because it's a fairly constant elevation and it's surrounded by a low area that is constant elevation as well. And it's certainly, if that's a wetland, it should all be at a constant elevation. And
somewhere over here.
That doesn't, I haven't transposed your drawing onto the digital elevation model, but it looks like what's been flagged by the wetland scientist is somewhat smaller than the topography would suggest the wetland is. So the first thing I'd suggest is, I think we ought to all go out there and have a look. The second thing is, I think that you should contact DEP and find out what they had in mind when they laid this marker down in the middle of the house. And are you familiar with Cohasset's vernal pool regulations?
I think it's 100 feet, correct?
That's right. And within that 100 feet, do you know what the restrictions are?
No touch, correct?
Absolutely.
Right.
No disturbance.
Well, we did measure from the closest point because we were suspect that the potential
see that.
vernal pool, it's not certified, but would be somewhere in here, but we have 114 feet.
Yeah, again, that limit of the IVW may not be the limit of the vernal pool. So it just seems to me that it's close enough to take a closer look at this.
Okay.
And certification is not necessary in our bylaws.
Correct, yeah.
All it has to do is meet the criteria for a vernal pool. And it certainly has a good start on it because you've got a closed topographic basin here, which makes it look like, that's probably why the state identified it. They didn't actually survey any of these sites. They just identified I believe from the 2006 digital elevation models, they looked for these closed basins. And that's how they identified all the potentials. And then at some later point, citizens or biologists went out and filled in the blanks on these to get them certified, but certification is not necessary in Cohasset.
Mhm,
It just has to meet the same criteria. So
mhm.
I think it's worthwhile for us to have a site visit.
Okay,
I think you should be contacting DEP and
Okay.
finding out why this kind of mysterious potential vernal pool marker is in the middle of the house. I don't think they'll be embarrassed. I think they'll have a very good explanation for that. And I suspect it is the centroid of distribution of pools. In fact, there's more of them on the other side of Atlantic.
Mhm.
Tom?
Yes.
I used to live there on Hobart Lane, and between Hobart Lane and Lothrop Lane, which is the right of the diagram.
Yeah.
If you cross over Atlantic Avenue, there is a very, very large area of continually wet wetlands there. Whether it's a vernal pool or whatever you want to call it, but it certainly is not intermittent. It is always wet there and always marshy. And that's the area where you see Atlantic Avenue written in the upper right-hand corner.
Yeah.
Mhm.
To the left of that is the area I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it, Eric.
Yeah.
I go past it all the time.
Okay.
And I just to clarify this for commissioners and anybody else who's not clear on this, the vernal pool needs to be continuously not full of water, but has to be continuously hold water for 60 days, sometime between January 1st and July 1st. It needs to be cut off from any predatory fish so that the amphibians that breed there don't have any predators. They don't have any, at least they don't have any fish as predators to eat their eggs and larvae. And then there is something called an obligate species, which also is part of the definition. Actually, there are a number of species. You can either tally a number of species that are a little harder to measure, or you can just find one, and that would be a wood frog. That's considered the obligate species here. But there's a couple of ways to certify these pools. And then so another piece of the puzzle here is, does it have an outlet?
It does.
Neither of these have outlets. They're
Well,
closed.
there's an outlet located down here.
They're closed topographic basins.
Yeah.
And we could establish that without any doubt with a proper level survey done with a RTK GPS unit, something that's good to about 5 centimeters. And I'm pretty sure that the DEM's right. This is 2016, and the tolerance here is about 10 centimeters or less. So I think what I'm seeing on the digital elevation model is pretty good. We've had an opportunity here in town to compare a high-level survey, leveling survey against this DEM, and they agree to the nearest centimeter almost. So I'm pretty confident that this DEM is accurate here. But to be absolutely sure, we could do a ground survey out here for sure. So I think you've got some things to, you've got a landscaping plan to modify. And I think there's some serious questions about whether these are wetlands or vernal pools.
Okay.
We're coming up at a time when it's actually possible to prove it one way or another. As soon as that water temperature hits about 40 degrees, if there's fairy shrimp there, they'll start to hatch. And within a week or two of that, wood frogs will start to breed in there.
Okay.
And you'll hear them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, the DEP needs to hear them if you want to get it to be certified, but we don't need that.
Right.
We don't need to have a state certified vernal pool. We just need to meet these criteria that the state has set out.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a certification process, as I understand from the biologist who's in charge of this program, they are a year behind.
Yeah.
And he's going to start certifying last year's pools in June. And he might not get to any that are submitted this spring until well into the summer. But as I said, it doesn't matter whether the state has certified it or not for Cohasset to be considered a vernal pool. So you've got some homework to do, I guess.
Okay, I guess to clarify though, so you're questioning this boundary of whether it's an IVW or a vernal pool? Because I guess we're thinking that the 114 feet.
I have two questions. One, what is the extent of the vernal pool? If there is an IVW here, I wonder, given that this is a closed basin, a topographic low, whether the wetland scientist really has it right. And if we go out there and we find that his flags are underwater, I think that would raise real red flags for us.
Yeah.
So Tom,
I would recommend a visit right away. A site visit by the commission.
Carolyn, when was the wetland delineation done on the IVW?
That was done by John Zimmer on, that says June 19th, 2020.
Okay. And so to Tom's point, and thank you, Tom, you continue to amaze me with your knowledge about the wetland here. So thank you. Just it seems like what I'm getting at is there could be a call for a further wetland delineation.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
I think my priority would be a site visit. Just so we get we saw a lot of pictures there and we're sort of disoriented when you don't have any point of reference. And so we had questions about trees and whether they were on the property and whether they weren't, and also what's growing there. And this is a big enough site and this is a big enough project to warrant us that we become more familiar with the layout.
Let's do it.
I'd hope you'd agree.
Yeah. I'm fine with that.
So Charlotte, can we'll need to publish it, right? It's got to be an invited site visit, correct?
Yeah.
I can look into that, but yes, we do need to get permission from the owners to, come on the property, even though they've opened up a permit. It's just always good to obtain consent.
Yeah, but my understanding by Amy is that this also has to be an actual meeting, so it has to be published as a public meeting.
Okay, I can look into that, but usually our site visits, we don't deliberate. We mostly just go to observe. But if we want to make it like a public setting to, talk about our site visit afterwards, that would be a public meeting, yes.
No, I don't think we want to talk about it. I think it's just observation, but I just please confirm that with Amy,
Sure.
and then we'll
look into that.
and then reach out to all the commissioners and find a time that we can do this. In the meantime, Carolyn, would like to continue this hearing until February 24th.
Please.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll look into DEP. Do you want me to go ahead and ask John Zimmer to reflag at some point or wait for your site visit?
No, I don't think that's necessary, but if he were there at our site visit to answer questions, I think that would be helpful.
That would be something. I could relay that to him, and if you can coordinate with him, or I can get you it.
I think personally, I don't see why we wouldn't want a Mr. Zimmer to go out there and reflag that. If the wetland delineation was done in 2020, almost 2 years ago now, and we're looking at current conditions, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing having it reflagged. Personally, I think it would be a benefit to the commission.
Jay,
I wouldn't disagree with that.
yeah. Jay, this time of year, you're going to find probably 2 feet of water in that. All right. It's not going to be marginal. It's quite an encashment basin. So,
yeah. But, you know, as we all know, it is standing water does not necessitate a wetland.
Oh, boy, what a wise old guy you are.
Well,
I have 6 inches of water in my backyard right now.
I'm
It's
glad
not a
well,
wetland.
you might have to, survey it twice then, because if there's standing water in it for a month, I think that would be a different story, wouldn't it, Jay?
Yeah, well, let's try and get a site visit out there, obviously prior to the 24th.
Yeah, right.
If Mr. Zimmer could do that, I wouldn't be opposed to that, or at least be available for the site visit. It's going to take a little bit of scheduling. Probably not going to get all 7 people available. It's really when the engineer is and the homeowner can make it accessible, give us a couple of times, and then the commission can pick a time that works best for all of us.
Okay, you want me to start with the homeowner for times and?
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
Carolyn, I can send an email with you and the homeowners and John Zimmer if we have his email. Just try and see what dates work for them, and then I can see what dates work for the commission.
That would be great, and I
That'd
can
be
send you
great.
his contact.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Carolyn.
Okay, and I'll look in, thank you, and I'll look into DEP and we'll work on that landscape plan.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Carolyn.
Our next hearing this evening is for RDA 22 it's got the wrong number on it. Oh, no, it's RDA 22-04 for 390 South Main Street. Read the public hearing notice in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetland Bylaw, and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw. The Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, February 3rd, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform from applicant Gordon Stevenson for a request for determination of applicability 22-04 to add a 40 square foot addition for a screened porch within the 200-foot riverfront area at 390 South Main Street.
We have Cameron Larson in the audience who is raising their hand. I don't see the owner or the Brad Holmes who submitted the RDA, but I don't know if Cameron Larson is presenting this one.
Well-
So do you want to promote them or?
Both them, we'll find out.
Okay. And then we have someone OSPP, so I will promote them too. They're also raising their hand.
Okay.
Good evening, Commission. This is Cameron Larson with ECR, the office that's representing Gordon Stevenson for the RDA. I'd be happy to begin the presentation whenever you like, and if I may share the screen, that would be great.
So,
Absolutely.
Cameron,
ahead.
just, may I ask you, there's someone listed as OSPP or OSPP. Can you tell us who you are, please? You just muted yourself. OSPP, you're muted. Just one.
Oh, I'm muted. Wait a minute.
Now you're not. We can hear you now.
Elizabeth, is that you?
Now they muted again.
Can you hear us now? Yes.
And Gordon.
Elizabeth and Gordon,
We're
is that
not
you
very
guys?
good at this.
That's okay.
Okay.
All right,
All right.
great. That'll be the
Cameron, please.
applicant that's also on the call with us tonight. I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Thank you.
All right, I got the site plan here pulled up for everybody to see. So again, my name is Cameron Larson with ECR. Here tonight to present the RDA for 390 South Main Street. It's a small single-family home lot. There's a paved driveway, associated garage, surrounded by lawn and landscaped areas, some gardening area to the rear. The site abuts the Gulf River to the east. That That riverfront area does extend over a portion of the site, which is shown by the blue lines here, the 100 and 200 foot riverfront. ECR located the bordering vegetated wetland associated with the Gulf. The 100-foot buffer does extend over a portion of the site also. And then we have land subject to coastal storm flowage, shown by that black dashed line that extends across the rear backyard. So what we are proposing as part of this RDA is a small addition to the rear of the home. It's just a 4x10 addition, 40 square feet total. It's all within previously maintained lawn landscaped areas. It's just going to bump out an existing indoor greenhouse that is part of the part of the home. It will be converted to a screened-in porch area once the addition's completed. There is one small peach tree shown on the plan in green that will have to be removed. We are proposing to plant a native tree, similar size. ECR recommended a flowering dogwood. It would fit in nice with the landscaped area. It is a native to replace that tree that'll be removed. All the work is located beyond the 50-foot buffer to the wetland. It's located beyond land subject to coastal storm flowage. It's located within the outer riverfront. We will be utilizing erosion controls shown on the plan by that red dashed line. And then once the work's completed, everything will be stabilized to its pre-existing condition. That's all lawn and landscaped areas surrounding it. And we are happy to provide a completion report to the commission once that work's done. I do have some photos also. Let's see if I can. Oh, there we go. This just shows you, give you an idea of where we're looking at. So it's this area right off of the side of the rear home where the 40 square foot addition will be. There's the peach tree that'll be removed for that addition, but all within this maintained lawn area. So if the commission has any questions, I'd be happy to address those.
So Cameron, you just said a 4x10. The plan says 3x10. Which is it?
I think the plan says 3 foot 10 inch, so it's about 4 feet. So we're rounding up.
That's what it says. Okay. Could you put the plan back up, please?
Not a problem.
I thought it was saying 3x10.
3 feet.
Oh,
10
3 foot 10 inch. Gotcha.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's about 40 square feet, a little
Yeah.
less.
Okay. And is this going to have a concrete foundation
Yes. Yep.
with a spread footing?
It'll be something. I guess it'll be something like that, a slab, something. We're not putting a full basement in. Of course, it's just a small little addition with a concrete foundation.
And you're saying the proposed new tree would be in that area, the same area?
Yeah, it'd be in the same vicinity. It's all kind of landscape lawn in that area anyway, so we could fit it in right in that area.
Okay.
Chris, I
Charlotte,
don't think we have any
Charlotte, do you have anything to add to this project?
I don't think we have any dogwoods on our native tree list. So you have to choose something else.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay.
I can pull up the native plant list too, if that helps, but I did go out to the site back in September, talk to the owners, and they are for planting native species. And I took pretty much the exact same photos that Cameron took, maybe just a little bit closer up, but I'm not sure if anyone wants to see them, but they're basically the same photos.
I don't think we need more photos.
And just to clarify, that little greenhouse is already on an existing slab. Correct.
That's part of the existing foundation. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So the the transformation from a greenhouse to a screened-in porch, is that, how's that going to be handled? I mean, you have a silt sock. So does that indicate that they're going to be coming around the left side of the house, or how are they gonna address this construction?
Well, I mean, of course, it's the foundation's there, so it'll be a matter of framing and that's, associated work with that. They'll be accessing from the driveway, from what we're looking at, the right side of the home where that addition's going will be the easiest way to access that. If the commission would prefer, if we extend that erosion control line, we can extend that a little bit. But again, it's, the renovations to a screened-in porch will be, framing and things of that nature. We won't be doing any earthwork in that area.
Right. Okay. Anyone else from the commission have any questions? No? Any conditions other than the tree having to be off the native plant list?
No.
No? Well, we lost Jay just for a minute. He had an emergency to deal with, so I'm gonna make a motion to, oh no, this is an RDA. This would be a -3 determination with the condition that the tree is planted between the 50 and 100-foot buffer, and that it is a species chosen from the Conservation Commission native plant list and of approximate size to tree that's existing.
Yep.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Having a motion and a second to approve an RDA 22-04. We'll take a roll call vote. William Ashton,
William Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisner, aye.
Trish Grady,
Trish Grady, aye.
Jay Pampari sustains, and Chris McFarland says aye. So that vote passes 6-0-1.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Commission.
Thank you. Jay's done for the night right now. He apologizes. Okay. Our next hearing this evening is for RDA 22-03. I'll read the notice to public hearing. In accordance with the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetland Bylaw, and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, February 3rd, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform from applicant Kevin and Jean Ellen Sullivan for a request for a determination of applicability 22-03 to remove an oak tree declared unsafe by tree experts at 169 Border Street.
Evan, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Awesome.
Great. So, Mr. Sullivan, please tell us your dilemma.
Well, there is a picture, I think, that was accompanied my application that shows the location of the tree in the proximity of the house. So you get a sense it's a very large oak tree, and there are some very large branches that overhang the house. Now, we've been in this house for 20 years, and in the last 5 years, the storms have gotten significantly tougher, especially in wind volume. So we had Bartlett Tree Company come and look at the tree this summer, and they told us that due to the amount of insect and rot in the tree, that it was a high-risk tree. And and that we should do something about it soon. And so we didn't do anything at that point because we knew we had to come to the commission. And it kind of got lost in the work of other things that we're doing. So in our life, so we let it go. But then the storm came in October 26th. That storm that we all remember. The oak trees retain their leaves long into the season. So this tree still had quite a bit of leaf on it when that storm hit. The wind came from the north, which is unusual, except for the northeasters hit us. So most of our weather comes from the west, but this time it came from the north. The leaves were on the tree. And what happened was it ripped one of the large branches off the tree and it landed on my roof, went right through my roof, in fact. And we had both structural and water damage that we had to take care of at that point. And this branch that came off wasn't even one of the larger ones I'm worried about. It was a third of the size of the larger ones that are there still. But in addition to this branch it tore off, it also damaged a couple of branches significantly in a way that I've never seen done before. I mean, a branch comes out laterally from the trunk of the tree. This branch was cracked in 3 or 4 places laterally along the distance of the branch going out. And you could see through these cracks. And I know Charlotte visited, I showed her those and she took pictures of that. I'm surprised this branch survived the storm we just had last week, to be honest with you. And the ice storm we're having tonight, I don't know what that will do to it. The weight will eventually take it down. But then we had later in November, I think, so we had another company, Newcomb Tree Company, come out and give us a second opinion. And their view was the same. The tree is damaged beyond repair due to insect damage, rot, and now weather damage. And sooner or later, this tree is gonna come down. And in my neighborhood on Border Street, I don't know if you remember, on the 26th, we were out of power for 3 or 4 days because several oak trees came down on Border Street. My neighbors across the street lost a giant oak tree, took down all the power wires with it. So my tree hasn't uprooted yet, but that's not my major concern. It's the branches that need to be addressed immediately so they don't fall on my roof.
Charlotte, do you have any insight for us?
Sure, yeah, I can share my photos, but I went out, Kevin invited me on, I think in early December to take a look at the tree. And so I can pull up my photos here. So this is the tree, that you guys can see. It's close proximity to the house. And then I took several pictures of, a lot of the large crevices, broken branches from the most recent October storm, just to show, a lot of the details here that Kevin just explained. And then here's the location of the, branches close to the roof of the house. And the tree is within the 200-foot riverfront area, which is in Concom's jurisdiction, which is why they're submitting this RDA. So I can pull up a site plan that they had submitted with the RDA. It's an old site plan that they had for previous work back in, I think, 2005. Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but they just wanted to show the tree's location to where the 200-foot riverfront buffer zone was.
You have that? You have that
Sure,
diagram?
yeah. I can pull that up. Yep.
The tree's about 150 feet from the river.
So this is the tree right here with the X. So this line all the way on the right is the 200 foot. And then these two lines on the left are the 100 and the 50. And then you have the resource area, the Gulf River on the left.
And what is the distance from the base of the trunk to your house?
I'd say 12 or 13 feet.
I remember Chris Kennedy told me a while back, he said, Eric, if you want to determine whether you should cut down a tree near your house, talk to your insurance agent. All right, because he'll make it very clear. All right, anything within 20 feet of your house, that size should come out. Now that's not Concom talking. That's an insurance agent looking at claims and risk and all of that. So and I tend to agree. All right, that big trees like that should not be located within 10 to 15 feet of a house. It's just for the safety of the inhabitants. So. And the 200-foot river flow area, we don't have any, we have nothing qualified in there that the test that has to be met. I don't believe, Chris. All right.
No, I don't believe so.
It's really judgmental.
Any comments by any other commissioner?
Your proposal, Kevin, is to take it down, not to prune it further.
We like the tree, actually. It's beautiful, and I hate to see it go, but I don't see a way, if we take out the really high-risk branches that hang over the house, it's not gonna make the tree viable, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, my proposal is we'll plant another white oak somewhere in our yard that compensates for it.
A bit further away from your house.
Yes, much further.
Well, that's great. That's great. So I'd like to, this would be a -2 determination, correct? Because we have no conditions to go with, and that, so I make a motion to approve I'm sorry, it's a motion for a -2 determination, which allows the work to be done at 169 Border Street. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Trish Grady.
Okay, having a motion and a second, we'll take a roll call vote. Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisner, aye.
Trish Grady,
Trish Grady, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 6-0. So there you go. Thank you for coming in front of us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for your help, Charlotte.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Good night, Kevin.
The next item on our agenda is listed as 413 North Main Street, which is septic repair. Unfortunately, this hearing was not published. The public hearing notice was not published in time for tonight's meeting. So that's going to have to be continued until February 24th. Let's see. So we will move on from there to RDA 22-02 for 400 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, which a water quality structure. This was continued from January 20th, 2022. The commission continued this when the applicant was not present at the meeting. So hopefully someone's here to present this evening.
Yes, we have Mr. Jason Pretty from Vertex Engineering and George Morgan representing the applicant, Cohasset Realty Trust.
Okay.
Chris, I'm going to excuse myself for this one. I'll be back in 10 minutes, okay? So I'll recuse myself for this
Okay.
project. And I'll be back for the one after this, okay?
Very good, thank you. So now we have a quorum of 5 for this hearing. So Jason or Alfred, can I ask one of you to show us a plan and tell us what's going on?
Absolutely. With your permission, can I share my screen?
Please do.
Yes.
All right. Is that coming through for everybody?
Yes, it is.
Okay. My name is Jason Pretty. I'm with the Vertex companies, and we're representing the application for 400 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. This is the location of the Stop and Shop, the existing grocery store. And in the back corner of the parking lot is the area that involves this application. We are installing we are proposing the installation of a water quality unit made by Contech Engineering to provide additional water quality for the catch basins that are within the parking lot. This is in between the 150 foot wetland buffer. The 100 is kind of on this side behind it, with the 50 just on the other side. This is a previously disturbed area, being the kind of the existing parking lot here. Have a kind of a list of points here to note. It's a fully paved area and will be repaved kind of at the completion of this activity. And because of that, there's no change in pervious or impervious area. The area would be protected with silt sock erosion control during the installation, and that would remain in place until everything was complete and restabilized. We're expecting the installation to likely be done in 1 day, up to potentially a day and a half, so it should go pretty quickly. And then at the completion of the installation, it will be repaved and kind of return to its use as a parking lot. Based on these conditions, we're asking that the commission considers a negative determination impact, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you very much. Charlotte, do you have any insight for the commission?
I did go out to the site so I can share my photos. We talked about the temporary erosion control barrier, so that we're not crossing the 50. And yeah, I can share my screen with any photos, but it is the existing parking lot near the Stop and Shop.
Would any of the commissioners wish to see the photographs?
I think I see some head nods.
Yeah, I would, just to get my bearings.
Okay.
I think I know where it is, but I just want to.
Sure. Jason, is it okay if I share my screen instead?
Absolutely. Do I need to give control back to you?
You need
Yes,
to.
please.
You need
Yeah,
to
just stop
unshare
sharing. Thank you.
Okay.
Very good.
So this is the parking lot area, approximately where the proposed water quality structure is going to go. You can see Stop and Shop behind in the right-hand corner. So that's pretty much, where it's going. There were some erosion control barriers that were kind of wrapped around a sewer grate. And then just for reference, that is the wetland. That's because there's a current existing fence around the border of it. So there's like an existing lawn in between, right up against the edge. So that's just the view from the grass area of where the work will be done. I just took a lot of photos of the existing conditions, and that's just the wetlands for reference.
Mhm. Tom, do you like this system?
I don't know. I was just going to ask Mr. Pretty, what does this do and how does it work?
Yes, sir. So this is made by Contech Engineering. It's referred to as a vortechnic unit. It's a hydrodynamic separator. So stormwater enters into the unit. It swirls around, and any sediment and silt drops out of suspension, and then the water exits the unit. And it's designed for that purpose.
So its purpose is really just to remove total suspended solids. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
And so you get no credit for removing nitrates or phosphates or anything like that, right?
That is correct.
Okay. And so then where does it go after it's done that?
So in the
existing
water go? Yeah, in the existing condition, there in one of the photographs, there was a manhole that was visible there, but that's on top of an existing stormwater pipe that does drain out to the wetlands. And so we are installing this kind of tying into that existing pipe, and water will flow through this unit to provide additional water quality before it goes out to the wetland area.
So the parking lot, then what percentage of the pavement then would actually, the runoff from how much pavement would end up running through this vortex device?
So there's
How many
a
square
new,
feet roughly, you know, I mean, or better yet, what kind of volume would it see, say, in a year?
you know, I don't have those exact numbers in front of me, but I can share that there is an infiltration system that's also on this property that handles a smaller portion, like a mostly roof drain water that is infiltrated. But all of the water associated with this, all of the stormwater associated with this complex travels over to this point and receives kind of additional water quality with this unit.
So in other words, that clean, relatively clean rooftop water goes into a different system.
That is
and
correct.
The relatively dirty pavement water, oil dripping, whatever gets spilled in the parking lot, ends up going through this. And the only thing that's being removed are the total suspended solids. No sort of oil water separator in this or anything like that, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct. There is additional water quality that happens in the bottom of the different catch basins, but this unit does not remove anything beyond sediment and silt.
And this is about half of that park, the overall parking lot, correct? That goes to this wetland versus the one on the other end of the property?
That's correct. All of the catch basins kind of drain in this direction.
Yeah, that's the direction that James Brook flows, Chris. So even if it went into the upstream end, it would still come out the downstream end of the parking lot. How many acres are here in this of pavement are there? Just roughly 5, 8, maybe more.
I don't have a.
It's if you put up can you put up a plan for the whole development again that you started with? I mean, we can just get some notion of
yes, sir.
we're talking how big an area we're talking about and how many cars might be parked there and what the potential for hydrocarbons might be for going down the gradient to your catch basins, ultimately through this device, which won't do anything to remove them, and then into this wetland, which is a tributary of James Brook, our water supply, right?
Understood. So I'm sharing my screen right now. The parking area in front of the grocery store, and in the newer building on the site has a collection of catch basins that all tie together and flow in this direction. I do have kind of a cut sheet for the unit here. It's a substantial unit. It's 10 foot by 4 foot as far as a footprint goes, and it is sized to handle and accommodate the volume of water associated with the parking lot.
So you're required to remove 80% of the total suspended solids. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
Yeah. Are you required to remove oil and grease, gasoline, whatever?
No, that is not a requirement.
Yeah. So there's basically you're meeting the regulations, but at the same time, we've got 5 or 6 acres. How many cars park here every day? How many of them leak? And all of that is going into that wetland, and what drains into that wetland, some of it goes to recharge the aquifer that we draw water from at Elms Meadow, just about a mile downstream, and into our municipal water supply. This isn't your issue, isn't your fault. It's kind of short-sighted on the town's part, I would think, not to have more stringent protection of our water supply. And that's my point here, not that you aren't meeting your requirements. Clearly, we're going to approve this. I suspect we're going to approve it because you comply with all the regulations. But gee, us as a town I think we're failing here, at least on this issue. That's my point.
Understood.
Is there anything you could do as a good neighbor, good citizen, or whoever owns this as a good citizen, to capture those hydrocarbons? Is there a system that works? There are oil water separators out there, aren't there?
There absolutely are oil water separators on the market. I've never seen one installed in such a way that it would handle stormwater flow coming off of a parking lot, though.
Yeah. So nothing that you're aware of that's adequate to deal with this problem.
Not in a traditional way, correct. I mean, you can flow stormwater through grass swales and such, and have it have kind of have an environmental impact as far as kind of a scrubbing the water in that fashion, but there are not any traditional methods.
What about rain gardens? Do they remove at least some of the oil?
Yeah, yes, sir. So that'd be similar to flowing it through a grass swale, but in any kind of anything that slows the water down and has it move gradually through kind of a landscaped environment does provide water quality.
So I've been here, I don't know, 12 years. I wouldn't call myself exactly a loyal shopper at Stop and Shop, but I do shop there from time to time. And it's rare to see cars parked where you've got your device going in. And looks like there might be room for a rain garden there. It's so close to the wetland. Look at this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, the outflow is about
This
40 feet
would
away.
have to be voluntarily done, I suppose, but it really does get back to this issue of we're going to drink this stuff. Presumably it's pretty well treated, and it's unlikely we're going to get very much oil and water in our glass of water from this parking lot. But all of these things start to add up, and it just seems like this would be a good place to put a rain garden instead of just something that's separating the silt and the sand and out of off the parking lot. Every time they come out and pave something, we've all seen what happens right in fresh paved streets and stuff. You can see an oil sheen coming off of it. Some people think that it's a good idea to paint their driveway every year so it's nice and black, even though it doesn't really do much to preserve their pavement. And all that stuff goes into our water supply. Again, you guys would have to volunteer to do that, I suppose.
It does look like the same company that makes this makes a stormwater or oil water separator specifically for this application.
Oh, do they?
Vortex, yeah.
Maybe you should look into that, Mr. Pretty.
Yeah, that's something that we can certainly take a look at. You know, Tom, I respect what you're saying. It's it's an issue across the country, and you know, even separate from parking lots, but just roads in general, and all of the water flows off of the road. So it's kind of the nature of construction right now. But I do respect your point.
States have all have exempted the roads because of the cost, I'm sure. So it would be very expensive to have a rain garden at the end of every storm drain system. But every road isn't near a water supply either.
Mm-hmm. No, understood.
I mean, if this were not on our water supply, I don't think I'd be as concerned about it. But because it is part of the James Rick watershed, and we believe we have wells at Sawyer Street that are in this part of the aquifer and Elms Meadow. In fact, I was told, and I don't really like to get some confirmation from town about this. I keep harping about it, I guess, but I was told that we take as much as 30% of our municipal water from the Elms Meadow well. And it's not a very deep well. I was told that it's screened at 30 feet. So it's picking up, this is not very deep. For those of you who may not be aware of municipal wells, this is really taking some pretty shallow groundwater and putting it through our treatment plant. We meet all the requirements. Public doesn't need to panic, but this is something we do need to pay attention to, and I appreciate that you understand this maybe even better than I do. So I appreciate that, but I'd also appreciate it if you did examine what it would take to put an oil water separator in this, and if it's not a big stretch, you guys would just do it.
That's something we can definitely take a look at. It's obviously just based on the size of the parking lot, it's a substantial flow amount of water, at least in a major storm. So it would not be a small unit or a small rain garden that would be able to handle that much volume, but definitely something we can take a look at.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions?
No, I don't think so. So, I mean, Tom, this is kind of a above and beyond. So
yeah, definitely.
We have two choices. I mean, we can ask the applicant to continue this hearing. We could, or I should say, we could continue this hearing with the applicant's permission, or we could, since this is kind of a favor we're asking, we could approve what's been submitted to us. And we could even approve it with the condition that if they were able to make that additional improvement, that we would allow that to happen. So
I think the last is probably the appropriate way to go here.
Okay. So this is an NOI 22-01. So what we need to do is we need to issue.
Sorry, Mr.
Oh.
Chair, it's an RDA because it's outside of the 50.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm reading the next thing. I apologize.
Sorry.
Thank you for correcting me. So it is an RDA. So this would be a -3 determination with the condition that if the applicant researches the oil water separator and determines that they would like to use that type of system along with the sediment system, that would be that they could go ahead and do that. So do I have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, so we're going to take a roll call vote for the -3 determination. William Ashton,
William Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
We lost Eric. Trish Grady.
Trish Grady, aye.
And Chris McFarland, aye. So that vote passes 5-0-0. Thank you very much, Jason. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So our next hearing tonight is NOI 22-01, which is a continued hearing from January 6th. It's the moving of a shed at 138 Atlantic Avenue. And Charlotte, is it? Oh, you're pulling up.
Yeah, we have Mr. Jeff Hassett from Morse Engineering.
Does I have to abstain from this one?
I'm sorry, who was that?
It's Trisha, sorry,
Oh,
Trish Grady. Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, so we still have a quorum of, well, Eric, are you joining us back?
I'm back.
Okay, so we're back to, we still have a quorum of 5, just a different quorum.
All right, thank you, Chris. Jeff Hassett here, civil engineer with Morse Engineering. Charlotte, if the property owner, Blaine Curtis, is on the line, if you could promote him as well.
Yes, thank
So
you. They are
as you
promoted.
mentioned, this is a continued public hearing for an NOI to relocate a shed at 138 Atlantic Ave. I presented this at the hearing about a month ago, and you asked for 3 items. The most significant one was to move the new shed outside of the 50-foot buffer, which it is at this point. The 50-foot buffer line is in red. So you can see that the shed is entirely now outside of the 50-foot buffer. We're depicting the location of the door as well, which will face the backyard. And we're adding minor grading throughout along this side of the shed associated with that door. So it'll be, it'll ramp right into the slab. So with that, I do believe we've addressed all the comments from the last hearing. And to reiterate some of what we talked about at the last meeting, the shed within the 50-foot buffer will be removed. So we see that as an improvement. The new shed is located in an area that is currently lawn. So there are no trees to be removed. And there will be a 12-inch mulch sock erosion barrier along the down gradient limit of work. So I'd be glad to answer any additional questions.
Jeff, is there a slab to be taken away at where the shed was originally set?
No, there isn't.
No slab. What, just sort of ground and timber, sitting on timber or what?
Yeah, it's timber. I'm not sure exactly what it sits on, whether it's some, concrete blocks or what,
But you'll remove that, whatever it may be.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other comments from commissioners?
He did what we asked.
Sure did, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is an NOI 22-01. So I'm going to make a motion to issue an order of condition for the new shed at 138 Atlantic Avenue. Do I have a second?
Second.
Having heard a motion and a second, we'll take a roll call vote. Will Ashton?
Will Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell?
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan?
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower?
Eric Eisenhower, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 5-0-0.
Do we need a variance, Chris?
Are they working in the 50?
Well, they're taking
To
it out.
remove the old shed. Yes, I'll make a motion to issue a variance for work within the 50-foot buffer at 138 Atlantic Avenue. Do I have a second?
Second.
Having a motion and a second, take a roll call vote. Will Ashton?
Will Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell?
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan?
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower?
Eric Eisenhower, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 5-0-0.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Our last hearing this evening is NOI 21-26 for extending the driveway and grading at 12 Hobart Lane. This is a hearing continued from January 20th, 2022, most recently from January 20th. So this is Paul Shea and
We have Mr. Shea, Mr. James, and Mr. Mariah. And I believe the abutters, the Schwans, are in the audience as well.
hey, who'd like to speak this evening?
Sorry, I gotta wake up here.
Hey, it's a short one.
It's actually, yeah, it's a little past my bedtime too.
Yeah, me too.
I know what you're talking about.
This is a continuation. We've actually continued this a few times. And
Yes.
I know the last time we met, we actually did a site walk. And the site is actually, the proposal has actually changed quite a bit since our original submittal. We've actually cut it way back. In fact, if you'll allow me to screen share, I can actually, Charlotte,
Yes, go ahead.
okay. There we go. Let's see.
Gary, could you focus as you go through on those things that you have changed? Because it's not entirely clear when I look at the diagram how it has changed. It might be helpful if you emphasize those.
Okay, why am I having a hard time here?
No, you're sharing right now.
Yeah, I am sharing. Oh, okay, that's what. Oh, all right. It's on the. It's, I have two screens, so I'm kind of confused here. You'll have to excuse me. This is the first sheet, which is existing conditions, which still remains the same. It's what everybody's familiar with: the existing driveway, the wall that's holding up the driveway, the ledge on the left side, in this area on the back side that's currently being maintained as a retaining or as just as a lawn area. It was, I think at the time when we walked it, it had been, I think it had been cut down. So you can see this is the stone wall along the property line. So what we are now proposing is, let me blow this up a little bit, is that we're gonna try and we're actually proposing now to reduce the overall scope of work in association with this, pretty much just the driveway, and which is right in here. And at the request of the abutters, we're not even going to put the stone wall in. We were proposing to utilize a reinforced earth embankment so that there wouldn't be any stone walls against it, so they wouldn't even see the stone. And what we have also proposed is to add an additional 17 arborvitaes along this, just to provide some screen for the abutters from that embankment. In addition to this, what we have also done is we're going to utilize that back slope in behind the deck pretty much as just a disposal area for whatever material we pull off of the between the driveway and the proposed tensile grid. Probably about 80 to 90 yards, and that's pretty much what we're doing. We're just going to try and put it on that slope and just go as far as the fill goes, call it a day, rather than
and make it less steep.
Make it less steep, yeah. Just go as far as it, but I don't want to. I just did it specifically just so I don't have to remove the stones, and that's really primarily what it is. Obviously whatever topsoil we get off of the top. We won't try and utilize it again once in this area. We'll just put that back over there. So we'll just try and like I said, pull the slope down a little bit. Other than that, we're now down to, in fact, if you go back over to the table, well, one other thing, and I'll let Paul talk about this again also. We're no longer using the wetland line from the 2017 from the abutters. In looking at it, it didn't make any sense. It was in the middle of the lawn area. So what we have done is we asked the abutters to allow us the ability to go over and flag the edge of the wetlands on the opposite side, and they do not want us on the land. They did not want a third party to be able to flag that. So what we are assuming is that the edge of the lawn as it currently existed or existed even at the time of our site walk would be the limits of the BVW. So based on that, you can see the 100-year, the 100-foot buffer limits have, come back quite a bit. Same thing with the 50-foot buffer. Now, we're still proposing some activity within the limits of the 50-foot buffer strictly for that disposal area, but that's an area that's pretty much already being maintained as a lawn area. So it really it won't change the effect of it or even the impact of it on the adjacent resource area. Other than that, the other thing that has happened is because we're no longer placing that fill, we're no longer proposing any stormwater improvements. And we do meet the criteria under the stormwater guidelines in terms of we're less than 500 square feet and the disturbance is under 5,000 square feet. So we do meet that criteria in terms of not having to try and meet the stormwater requirements for this improvements. And with that, I'll turn it over. I'm not sure if Paul wants to say anything or not, but I'll turn it back to the chair.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Charlotte, do you have any new insight for us?
From a site visit perspective, no, but there is a letter that was sent by the abutters. I would just like to, make sure that's publicly stated. I sent it to the commission this afternoon. I'm not sure if you guys would like me to share my screen and I can show it to everyone. But, they said they were still open to the granting the access for any wetlands delineations as long as they're given reasonable advance notice. And they're asking the commission to consider information previously provided indicative of alteration of wetlands on the proponent's property in the past few years. They, had been communicating with the owner about revised site plans being available for their review. And then before this morning, they had never heard of Tensar GeoGrid and would appreciate the opportunity to speak with their consultants about that. So I just wanted to enter that into the public record, but not sure if you guys would like me to share my screen to show the letter.
I've seen it. So,
Okay.
So were these plans not posted in advance of tonight's meeting that the
The plans were posted to the website, meeting the 48-hour requirement.
Charlotte, I have a question about the, there's a document here.
Mhm.
It has no letterhead, no signature, no stamps, no date, just says project description, 12 Hobart Lane, Cohasset, Massachusetts. Who actually, where
Oh, I
did
did. I will apologize, Tom. I did
Sorry,
that.
that was the narrative.
That was the narrative that was part of the NOI originally, and I just revised it. In other words, that was a document that was included within the limits of the NOI when we first filed it. So all I did was revise it to reflect the change in the change in the scope.
Yeah, okay, so.
All you had to do also, the way I did it, I assumed that we would do it. We would just change out that original narrative to this one, so that I didn't put anything in. It would have been part of that original document. I apologize.
So maybe this is where the abutter's question comes from too, because you're going to use a material that wasn't mentioned in your initial project narrative. Is that correct?
You're correct. You're correct. It wasn't in the original plan. If you remember right, we were originally talking about trying to put a wall up to be able to retain this.
So maybe you'd understand.
It was more of a slope protection than anything else.
Maybe you'd understand why the abutter is flummoxed by your actions.
I don't know. They were the ones who requested us not to utilize the.
No, I'm talking about
the.
What's the name of this fabric? Not fabric, but
it's Tensar. It's a GeoGrid. It's actually it's all it is.
I know what it is. I looked it up.
Yeah.
But my point is that you've suddenly popped something on them just before the meeting, and no wonder they're a little uncertain.
I mean, if you want, certainly we can give them the opportunity. We can give them a couple more weeks to be able to look
actually, I have something that I have greater concerns about. Maybe you were listening when we were talking about one of the earlier ones this evening. I took since I was looking at the topography of another one of the neighbors here, I took a look at this one a little bit more carefully. And I also see that there are closed contours here, which seems to indicate there's a vernal pool here. It's not just a wetland, it's probably a vernal pool. There's Phragmites growing in it. As I say, it's topographically closed. I don't see a wetland delineation here, first of all. And secondly, this whole issue of the lawn, if somebody's put a lawn in a vernal pool, even if they did it 2 or 3 years ago, we might really consider a show cause hearing here. It looks to me like the wetland's been filled below that existing block wall. Not filled, but at least devegetated and replaced with maybe you can call a lawn an invasive species, huh, Eric?
It's absolutely the worst invasive species.
Well, Tom, I think it looks to me, based on the topography, that the wetland on the southeast side of the wall has been invaded
Modified.
by a lawn, and the original wetland plants have been removed. So when you start looking at, the contours on this map are typical engineering contours where they've got a few points and then they start drawing some wiggly lines, or the computer does. When you look at a digital elevation model, however, you see that the elevations here, it's really flat. And there is a rim around this bathtub, and it goes right through that lawn.
Yep.
So I there's no way I would consider any of this until we actually have a wetlands delineation here. And obviously, since the wetlands plants have been removed, if they were there, this would have to rely on hydric soils. And I would say that I'd feel pretty uncomfortable if a test pit was put in here about approving this. If there was a test pit put in on the northwest side of this wall and we found modeling just below wherever the sod had been laid in. I have a suspicion that
I'm gonna let Paul answer that, because this was Paul's determination in terms of whether or not there was even a wetlands on this side. So I'm gonna let Paul respond to that.
Okay.
Paul, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. The current property owner is telling me that the area below the existing, I guess it's block wall that's on the property, in between the block wall and then the stone wall, which is the property line between the applicant's property and the Schwann's property. That area was grassed area when he purchased the property. The area, that area right there, we tested that area for hydric soils. And what we've mostly come up with is that there's actually continuous ledge underneath this whole area up until the bordering wall. In the field, in fact, the on-site meeting, I think we had it back in October with the Conservation Commission. At that point, if you look, you can see that there's a 13-foot contour line below the block wall. And the contours in the wetlands that are showing up are 12, 11, and 10. And I can remember looking through the Phragmites and seeing the drop in elevation across the rock wall into the Schwann's property. That's where they have their, I guess it's like a little elevated boardwalk going through the wetland. There's clearly a drop in topography there and different conditions than what's on the applicant's property. And so we found no evidence of wetlands within Mr. Mariah's property. I'm in agreement with what Gary's showing on the plan now. We've got a dashed light blue line that is showing where the existing lawn area ends on the Schwann's property and really running straight down the, and then going really following the stone wall between the two properties. Clearly, we have 50-foot buffer zone on Mr. Mariah's property, but not wetlands. And the fact that we've got drops in elevations and we have some ponding area on the Schwann's property doesn't necessarily mean there's a vernal pool there. But I haven't been hired to investigate the Schwann's property in terms of a vernal pool. We clearly know there's a wetland. So
Paul, this is Eric Eisenhower. Let me give you my recollection, because I've been involved with the Schwann's property now for, it's a good 2 years.
Yeah.
That area to the left of the small stone wall, between the stone wall and the walkway, when we originally were looking at this, was not grass. That was just rough grown weeds, and there was Phragmites there, but there's no lawn. Somehow, in the last year, soil has been added there and lawn has been put in place. I believe that's within the last 12 months, although I can't swear on that. So there's been substantial alteration to the area to to the left of
Correct.
the stone. Now, when we were there last time, visiting the property in question, where you see the 13 that you referenced before, there's a substantial quantity of Phragmites on the applicant's property that have been cut down. So there, if you look in that area to the this side of the stone wall where you see the 13, there was lots of stubs of Phragmites. So clearly, the Phragmites didn't stop just because there was a wall above it. It spread, all right, to the right. I don't know what direction that is. So I think for me, if Phragmites indicates wetland, there clearly was wetland that had gone underneath the stone wall. But last thing.
Clearly, there's enough.
Let me just finish.
Mhm.
We concluded, and we can waste a lot of time here, and I don't want to meet again on this. We concluded we would have a proper wetland delineation done for this meeting by a third party. And I don't really want to talk about this anymore until we have that delineation presented to us, because we're always going back and talking about the same thing over and over again. We need someone to come in and do the delineation, and the Schwants, I understand in the letter, are willing to put up with that under the right conditions. And I think from my viewpoint, that's the only way we're going to make progress here. But
I also
I'm not
add
going to
that
disagree
I don't
with you
have much
because
faith in the contour lines I'm looking at. They are not consistent with the digital elevation model. And I would say if you want to argue about the slope out there, let's get somebody out there with an RTK GPS unit and let's measure it. Third party.
they match the grades.
Can't hear you, Mr. James.
They match the grades from the Morse plan right on the money. They're exactly the same. In fact, with the spot shots that we had on our side, we matched the Morse grades right on the money.
Right on the money.
I mean, if you want, I'll put all the Morse grades
Right on the
back
money.
on there
What-
from the original.
Talk about the accuracy of your instrument. What do you mean right on the money? Plus or minus a foot?
Oh, plus or minus a tenth, maybe.
You're fading.
Plus or
Mr.
minus
James.
a tenth.
Can't hear you.
It was done, I actually, this was done with an electronic instrument. This was with a total station. I mean, I'll admit it wasn't done with an RTK unit. We didn't use RTK unit.
Mr. Chairman, we have a letter from the Schwants indicating they were willing to have the delineation done at one point. You've not done that. I'd like to make a motion that we drop all of this until we have the results of that delineation study presented to us in a way that meets the requirements of the Concom and also of the applicants and anybody else. But, we're back to where we were 2 or 3 weeks ago now.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. We don't have we have an assumed limit of wetlands is what we have on here and not an actual. I know that there was a long period of time where Charlotte had not heard from the Schwans and therefore no one could go onto their property. I understand now that they're willing to allow it to happen. So I think that we really have two courses of action here. One is to take a vote, or the other, which I recommend, is that we have a third party delineate the wetland and verify exactly where that is and where the 50 and the 100-foot buffer are and go from there. I will say that the fill in the 50-foot buffer I would not approve this plan based on the fill in the 50-foot buffer. I don't know whether or not you provided details for the tensar wall.
Yes, I did, sir.
Are they wraps? Could you?
Yeah, they're wrapped. They're wrapped. Yeah, in fact, I'll show you the detail.
So, and what's the face on the wrap? Anything?
Oh, it's just the tensar grid gets wrapped around.
So it's just bare earth within the tensar.
Well, you would actually plug there are slots in the grid itself, and what you do is you place some you place vegetation when the one's in the slot. Primarily it would be ivies and grasses.
Calling for ivy in the gas. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. But I'll
But
also,
essentially, it would be a living wall at that point in time.
yeah, I'll also mention to you that I'm taking my Conservation Commission hat off and I'm putting my other hat on. The arborvitae will never live in that location. There's far too much shade. They're going to be under competition from the neighbors, Norway maples. You're not going to have any luck at all with the arborvitae in there. So just a heads up for you.
Would you rather we went to Western Red Cedar?
Um,
Gary, if I can say something, I think we ought to go and get the delineation done and stop.
Oh, no, I agree with
No,
that. I'm not
agree.
arguing that. I agree with that. This is the first I heard that the Schwans were going to allow us that ability. If you remember right, I'm the one that asked for us to be able to go get that delineation.
Yes.
Well, I'll leave it
So
up.
now, all right, so you're under agreement that could happen and we'll continue
I'd
this
like to
hearing.
add something too.
Can I just get the applicant to agree to extend this to February 24th?
Yeah, if we can get the Swans to agree that we can do this, I mean,
It's in their letter, Joe. Their letter.
Mr. Chair, I would just suggest that we obtain written permission, since the letter says they're open to it, but just to get that documentation whenever, if they can give us that consent, then we can get that started ASAP.
And Tom, what were you going to say then?
I think it was Paul.
Oh, was it?
Who are you referring to, Chris? Me?
Yeah, weren't you going to say one more thing?
Yeah, I have my doubts about the contour lines on this map. The grade,
I will give you all of the spot.
The grades out here are very low, and for just a few shots with whatever instrument they were using, they're far from capturing, I think, the actual topography here. We're talking about differences of 6 or 8 inches here.
I will give you all of the spot shots. You'll see.
I'd still like
I have to admit,
I'd still like to see a precise survey out here.
Who was saying they would give them the spot shots? I'm sorry.
I will give them the spot shots.
Who's that?
Gary James.
Mr. James.
Okay, but the spot shots, you're talking about the spot shots from the neighbors survey?
No, the spot shots from our instrument survey.
On 12 Hobart Lane's property.
Yes, on 12 Hobart Lane. I will give you the spot shot. So in other words, you will get all of the elevations and how the contours were actually developed.
Okay, but I think the other issue is that the abutters property, the Schwann's property is incorrect. And I will tell you, Tom, that it most certainly is incorrect. It goes back, the survey is the survey on the Schwann's property was actually cribbed from an earlier hearing, and
I remember this.
The final determination on that was that the ground could be smoothed and that wetland grasses could be planted. I think what actually happened was it was probably filled and turf grasses were planted.
Yeah.
So I think you're absolutely right that not only would it be wise to get proper delineation on their property, it would also be wise to get an as-built survey from them, which they would need to get a certificate of completion anyway. Is that not correct, Charlotte?
And I would say, I mean, we've compared this digital elevation model, 2016 NOAA digital elevation model, against RTK instruments here in town. They agree to within 4 or 5 centimeters. They're really superior to what most of our engineers bring before us. And in most cases, what they bring before us is fine because there's a sufficient gradient so that their errors are not significant. In this case, the gradient is very, very low here. And it is significant when you start getting down to 4 or 5 inches here, because if it's flooded, if it's a wetland at 11.5 feet, it's probably a wetland at 11.4 feet.
Tom, in terms of your
Can
assessment.
I ask one question of the chair?
Hold on, Tom, where do we stand in terms of the vernal pool assessment?
Yeah, well, that's another issue altogether. It looks to me from the digital elevation model that there is a closed topographic depression here on the Schwann's property. We know that there's Phragmites growing down there, right, Eric? So it's probably flooded for a lot of the time. The question is it flooded for 60 days between January 1st and July 1st? Does it have the obligate species? Does it have fairy shrimp? Again, our presumption is it's probably a vernal pool. It does not need to be state certified. It does have to meet the state standards for that, and we can't determine that right now. We can see that this is suspiciously like a vernal pool.
You would need the permission of the Schwants to do any work there.
Yes,
Yeah, definitely.
it's their property.
Correct.
Well, Charlotte, I'm going to ask you to reach out to the Schwans again to get a just an agreement as to when they would allow someone to come onto their property and see if we can't set up a redelineation.
Sure. Yeah, I'll send them an email.
And then Tom, maybe you could also talk to Charlotte about how we might look at the elevations.
Right.
Mr. James, what were you going to ask?
Can I ask Tom, are you saying that the Morse plan was off, and that's how the original Morse plan, the grades on the Morse plan was off, and because we're comparing well with them?
I don't know. I have no idea. All I can say is I'm looking at the digital elevation model. I see an extremely low gradient area. I see that it's closed to the northeast by a little bit higher ground. And I think that it'd be wise to verify the topography here.
All right, I will.
Graded area.
All right, what I will do is
the fact that there's a lawn to the northwest between the property line of at 12 Hobart and the rock wall there, or the block wall, is as far as I'm concerned, insufficient evidence that there was a wetland here. This is a very tricky thing because obviously something's been manipulated here. Eric has a recollection that, and I think he's right, that we did see Phragmites coming up at least in the vicinity of the wall, the rubble wall on the property line, and out on that lawn as well, to the southeast of it.
Well, let me do this. I will bring another surveyor in to be able to give us a
that's not the way it
benchmark
works.
with an RTK unit.
I don't think that's the way it works.
Well, I'll bring. But I will do
the surveyor.
No, believe me, the surveyor I have is
you don't get
is probably the surveyor that I utilize has been registered since he's older than me.
You do not get to
75 years
choose
old.
the surveyor.
So Tom, you're recommending a third-party survey?
Yeah, I think so. We've done this before.
All right.
On my property or the Swan's property? Because
Swan's property?
Both properties.
Well, I mean, I'm not paying for the Swan's property, right?
As built on the Schwann property?
Not as built, it's the existing conditions. There's nothing built there.
On the Schwann?
Actually, there is something.
No, that's been built out.
We're not talking about surveying their whole property. We're talking about surveying an area that's maybe 100 feet by 100 feet over there. It's about the same amount. It's almost the same. It's about twice as big as the area that's between the block wall and the property line here, your property line. You can drop your whole argument about the topography. That'd solve it.
I mean, Paul Shea, he did soil testing in that whole area. He said it's not a wetland.
Well, we have underlying ledge. Can't be a wetland if I've got solid rock down, 4 inches. 6 inches. The deepest, there was like 1 or 2 holes where probably some stone had been removed or whatever, but most of it, it's very shallow ledge.
Well, you
from
talked
the-
about soil samples or soil test pits. I haven't seen any of that on the plans. Do you have those? Are those
Not
on the
the
plans?
No, but that's what we base the actual flagging on.
I don't know what to say. I mean, you don't have any, do you show where you took those samples on your plan?
Actually, when we were out in the field, I showed where a couple of the test holes were when we had to up there with the commission that day.
Ordinarily, we'd expect documentary evidence should be on your plan. If you want to use it as evidence, it should be on your plan. We don't deal in anecdotes and assumptions and, you know, put it on your plan where you took them. Show us what you found.
That's fine. We'll go back down and give you some depths on it.
Very good. We'll continue to the 24th then.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Mr. Chair, just so I understand, we want a third-party review, not only on the wetlands delineations, but also on the topography with an RTK unit on the Schwantz and the Mariah's property. Is that how I understand it?
Mr. Mariah says that he's not willing to
Okay.
pay for third-party review on their
Okay.
property, so we'll have to talk about that.
Okay.
All right,
Okay, thank you.
all right.
You know, Chris, if Mr. Mariah is not willing to pay, we should just go ahead and vote on it right now. Because I cannot see, without having this information, I can't see any change in how we would look at the project, Chris.
You were not at the walkthrough, were you, Tom?
No, I was next door. I went on the walk to, on the Schwann's property, but not this one.
All right, let's continue it for tonight.
All right. Do we want to go out there and have another look? I mean, I wouldn't mind having a look at it.
I think
It might
Tom,
change my mind.
I don't need another look. I think you and maybe Charlotte could go out again, and if
Yeah.
anyone else wants to join, they could do that.
Yeah, sure.
So why don't we plan on that as well, Charlotte? And maybe you can get permission from the Schwans that you and Tom can actually walk over there. All right.
And I'd like to be able to stick a shovel in it here and there myself. Can we actually hit bedrock 2 inches down?
You can. I was there for that. I don't know if it's continuous, but there was a lot of refusal.
I think as you go further along, Tom, you find the Phragmites growing. And I think it's much sloppier and less ledge apparent there, further along the stone wall on the left.
Yeah, I'll go out and have a look at it.
Okay, great. Charlotte, you'll
With
set
the
that
landowner's
up.
be and I'd also like to look at, not walk all over the Schwann's property, but be able to access on their side of the property line.
Sure, I can reach out to both parties to set up visits as long as it's, obtain consent.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Hopefully things are going to clear out a little bit out there. I bet it's pretty mucky and there's probably a lot of snow. So we're going to have to hope that the weather warms up a little bit so we can actually see the ground.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe at that point in time too, we can kind of outline specifically the area that you're looking for the additional for the third-party survey. Let's come up with that in terms of the
It
limits.
doesn't sound like you guys are amenable to having a topographic survey, and it's not absolutely necessary, I don't think.
I will
You
talk
guys
with
are-
my
you
client
guys-
regarding that. Tom, I'm not gonna do a complete as-built on the Schwann property. But if you want specific areas on the backside of the Schwann property associated with, trying to determine whether or not there's There's in other words, once I have the crew out there with an RTK unit, for them to get a few more shots and expand out to another, say 100 by 80 or another 8,000 square feet, it's not going to take them
You
very
have an
much to.
RTK unit?
No, I do not. I'm going to have to hire a third party.
Okay.
I'm probably, and the guy I usually hire for third party surveys associated with an RTK is going to be Grady Associates.
It's who?
It's Grady Associates.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, we use them all the time in terms of when we need a benchmark and to bring it into compliance with NAVD 88.
Right.
And we've used them in the past, so they're the ones we're gonna. But once I bring them out there, it's once they're out there, they're out there. I
Right.
just tell them put their boots on and get out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Charlotte will set that up. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Our next item this evening is to approve minutes from January 20th, 2022. Let's see. Let me try to remember who was there. Tom was there. Eric was there. I was there. Kathy, were you there? Yes. Trish was not there. Or you were there late, right? You're muted.
Yep, I'm pretty sure I was there.
Okay.
Chris.
Yes, I think you got there after the first hearing or something. Yeah.
What's that?
You can vote on half of them.
Yeah. All right. So did people review the minutes? Has anyone got any comments?
I have no comments.
No comment. I reviewed it.
Okay, great. Then make a motion to approve the minutes for January 20th, 2022. I have a second. Having a motion, motion and a second. We'll take a roll call vote. Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisner, aye.
Trish Grady,
Trish Grady, aye.
and Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 600. Report from Chair and Conservation Agent. I have nothing to report. Charlotte, do you have anything to report?
I do, but I can keep it brief, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, just a couple updates. We recently had a Cohasset Harbor Climate Resiliency presentation, and Tom Bell was actually one of the presenters. I put all of the presentation documents in OneDrive in that 2-3 folder under agent updates, so you guys are welcome to look at those.
That's great, 'cause Tom, I just want to say, Tom, that was an excellent presentation.
Very good presentation.
And I can't tell you how many people I've told about it already.
Thank you.
Yes, I was gonna say, I'm telling everyone. And then I'll be providing more updates as this comes, but DEP is switching to an electronic submission system. And I don't know if you guys noticed the documents from 136 Atlantic Ave and 270 Forest. They were using the eDEP NOI submission form, so we might start seeing more of that. As of now, eDEP is only, we can only submit orders of conditions that way through their electronic portal, and it's a whole different system. I went through a basic training on it where commissioners might have to sign these documents, and so I'm sure we'll be transitioning in the future, but right now you can only submit orders of condition, so you cannot submit any other forms like COCs, enforcement orders, RDAs, DOAs. So yeah, that is slowly transitioning. And then if anyone is interested, the Massachusetts Association for Conservation Commissions is having a spring conference, March 1st through March 12th. There are dozens and dozens of workshops. So if anybody is interested and wants to research it, please, email me and Angela, and we can, help with setting you guys up, getting those invoices taken care of. I'm not sure if all of you guys are current members, but we'd have to get you active memberships too if you want to sign up for any of those workshops. And then
the town does reimburse you for that, so.
Yeah, so I signed up for a handful of them, and the town pays the invoices, and the commissioners, you guys should be all current members, but if you're not, definitely let me know. We can look into that, getting you guys set up.
Send out the website.
Sure, I can send. Yeah, they have a.
Usually can get to it. All right.
Mm-hmm. They also have a lot of climate resiliency workshops as well. So. And then I can go through the project updates real quick. I don't have as many as last time. Just a quick update on Diab Lane. Given the recent storm, the construction's been a little bit delayed, but 3 Diab Lane has a building permit. They were trying to start in mid-January, but obviously it's been a little bit delayed with the storm. So they might start within the next couple of weeks. So I'll keep you guys posted when that starts. 9 Diab Lane and 15 Diab Lane have a new owner. His name is Mr. Andrew Gallagher. And so he has a building permit for 9 Diab, not for 15. The building commissioner still has to issue a permit for 15 Diab Lane. And so those, the owner said he wants to kind of start around the same time once he has all the documents lined up. So that will probably happen shortly after 3 Diab Lane starts construction. For Windy Hill, lots 31 and 32, the foundation, I was out there a couple weeks ago, and Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the foundation is pretty much complete for the far lot, which is 32, the one in the front. I don't think they've started yet. And so the building commissioner will need to go out and inspect that to make sure it is in compliance with the proper setbacks. When I went out, it looked a little bit close, but you know, I will look into that with the building inspector. I'm kind of interested in going out with him, so I'll let you guys know about that. Dolan Lane does have a building permit. This is the Lot C Dolan Lane project. There is a fallen tree in the 25-foot buffer zone, so I'm talking to the owner about that to come to Conservation Commission. And then last but not least, Elm Street, 87-124, they have their Chapter 91, but there were some minor changes, mostly architectural, that were added to the plan with the full site plan set. So I'm looking into that. There might have been some walkway changes, so I'm looking into the details of those, and I can give those updates at another meeting. But just so everyone's aware, they have their Chapter 91 license.
Charlotte, I haven't had a chance to look at those drawings yet, but my understanding is the walkway went from 10 feet wide to 24 feet wide.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it seems to me that would change the stormwater calculations.
Yeah, so that's what I'm looking into, if it was impervious or if it was pervious or partial. And so I'm looking into the details of that. But apparently the early information I have right now is apparently this went back and forth with planning board a lot. I don't know who initiated the change exactly, but it definitely went back and forth.
DEP initiated the change.
Okay, yeah, sorry. So it was DEP, but yeah, I don't know who. It basically went back and forth for a few months, as I understand it, and eventually the site plan was updated, but that was not communicated to us, at least directly. So I'm looking into those details.
Okay, it was impervious also, just so you know, because there was very specific, because it has to do with their concern for the seawall.
Okay.
They didn't want to be putting a bunch of water behind the seawall, so.
Charlotte, who is ensuring compliance with the new land alteration bylaw?
That is a good question. It's this new zoning bylaw, and so the enforcement is from the building inspector, who does planning, zoning, and then of course building.
And with regard to the cliff, literally at 15 Diab, it would depend on the plans, but it seems to me that they might have to remove a lot more than 10 cubic yards there.
I would think
so. For that matter, the same would be true of all of those Diab lots, but particularly 15, 9 almost certainly. And I would think that a volumetric calculation of the amount of bedrock that's going to be excavated and what they're going to do with it on site, whether they're going to remove it or repurpose it, is critical to understanding whether they're in compliance. And I'm a little surprised that the building commissioner has issued building permits before actually doing that, if he hasn't. That's something that, and it's not clear who has jurisdiction over it. Do we? Or
we do not have jurisdiction over that.
Does planning? Do you know?
That I do not know.
Not sure about planning, but I know it's zoning bylaw.
My understanding is that the only protocol on that is just like large home review, and that is that there is a box, you put it on the architectural drawings, just like you put the number of square feet, and if it's not caught by someone or misrepresented and not caught properly, then it just, the box gets checked and away it goes. It's a very, it's not a very good system. And similarly, both those lots on Diab Lane and the lot on Dolan Lane,
Yeah.
I've been told a number of times by the zoning board that those are not buildable lots. But again, if the building department approves or issues a permit, then the only way to stop construction is to bring suit against the person who's doing the building with the basis that it's not a buildable lot. So you can just figure that just about every lot in town is going to get built because that's what's going to happen.
Well, when I looked at that bylaw, when it was in draft form, I thought it was unenforceable. And you're just confirming what my suspicions were. I would hope that our building commissioner would actually be doing a volumetric calculation to confirm the applicant's numbers, if they're even on the site. I mean, this is a new bylaw. And so I would think that particular attention should be paid to all the new ones because our development community may not be as well versed in them as some of the bylaws that have been on the books for a longer period of time.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I can look into that with the building inspector. I will say that 9 Diab Lane's site plan was administratively revised because due to the zoning land alteration, they have to have greater than 75% tree coverage. So they had to revise their tree protection line. And that was a minor change. But yeah, for the ledge, I'll have to look at that.
That lot also has a 20-foot easement on its north side. So technically they can't do anything on that, the first 20 feet of that.
Right.
Is the department aware of that?
I can look into that too.
It should be, it's on the plans.
Yeah, it's on the plan.
It's on the plan. Remember, we saw these plans, the initial ones when we gave them stormwater permits. We don't know now what those plans look like. And for all we know, how many owners now have we gone through? I mean, we went from Matt Shannon, who initially got his stormwater permits.
Yeah.
And then these got sold down the river to, I thought, a couple who lived in town bought 15 and 9, or 3 and 9 to build their retirement home. But now you say
that bought 3. Yeah, I think they just bought 3, and then Andrew Gallagher purchased 9 and 15.
I see. Okay, so maybe I got that wrong. But in any case, the properties have changed hands. No doubt those new property owners would like to build a custom home, particularly if they're going to live there. And so I would suspect that there's been at least some changes to the plans that we approved. Maybe a change in impervious surfaces, maybe who knows what, right?
Yeah, there've been a couple minor administrative changes, and one of them was like the tree protection line for 9 Diab. For 3, there might be some changes in the future. I will communicate those to you guys, but I believe one of them might be a rerouting of utilities for ledge protection, because I think the way the 3 Diab Lane plan is set up now, there's these utility lines that are going like through a very large section of ledge. And so I think at least some of the discussions I've had, but nothing has been submitted to me yet, is rerouting utilities to go around an area where they're not taking out as much ledge. So that's something that may or may not happen, but I'll definitely let you guys know, if that comes across my desk.
I remember there were a fair number of, if you remember right, the 100-foot buffer from a wetland, just barely, it runs along the edge of the cliff there.
15, yeah, so it clips the edge of 15.
Yeah, I believe the commission had some requirements for how the tree cutting would go.
Okay.
And they aren't cutting any trees in that buffer, I don't think.
Yeah, there's an RDA that they had to resubmit. They got an RDA back in 2017, and then I think they reapplied because it expired in 3 years. And so I think they submitted again back in 2020. So I can look at that RDA, but their current RDA should expire, I think, at some point in 2023. So if they are doing the work past that time, they'll also need a new one.
Very little of the property actually was. within
Yeah,
the
it's like a small crescent, like.
5 feet or something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going to bed, Chris.
Okay,
What?
well, that was it for my site
Well,
updates.
Charlotte, you just mentioned, and again, it's not our purview, but you mentioned that they had to maintain 70% of the trees.
Mhm.
And I think you've actually got that backwards. I think you cannot remove more than 70% of the trees.
Oh, I'm sorry. That might have been it.
Yeah.
Yes, Kathy's nodding her head. Yeah, well, that was the minor
So-
change to fit the zoning requirements.
Yeah, so I don't think any of those lots are gonna have to come back because Shannon took care of that a long time ago.
Yeah, Chainsaw Shannon. Charlotte, I have an enforcement action for you.
Oh,
On-
goody.
on Beach Street. You go down to the culvert, there's a nice hulking float sitting pulled up on the marsh grass on the side of the road, which we do not allow, which is killing all that lovely marsh grass, and they have to get it out of there, all right?
Sorry, what's the property here?
It's, as you go down to the culvert on Beach Street, I think it's 180, all right? You'll see
180 Beach?
just right next to the road where the culvert is this hulking float that's sitting on the marsh grass.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
pulled up. They just pulled it up. Now, what we normally do is they have to bring someone in with a truck or a crane or some skiff comes in and drags it away. But it can't stay where it is. The marsh grass suffers because of that. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I can look at it. Sorry, can I? So you said the address was 180 Beach? Is that?
You can't miss it.
Charlotte, I'll get you.
No, it's okay. I can drive up and down and look for it, but I just.
One, just down. You'll see. It's from the
It
road.
is,
You got it, Tom?
address is, oh, heck, I can't. There we go. 140 Beach.
140. All right, thank you.
Close.
You were close. You were definitely close.
Eric, do you remember that time we brought the couple in for the show cause hearing from like 140 Border Street about the float that was in their marsh grass?
Yeah.
And they came in and everyone will just appreciate this little anecdote, but they came in, they said, well, there's only one problem about that float that's on our property. It's the town's. It had floated up the river and landed on their grass.
But I'm sure you can work it out.
Yeah.
In a peaceful way,
All right.
non-threatening.
Any other 48-hour issues? Motion to adjourn?
So moved, Chris. Thank you. Great meeting.
Second? Very good. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, all.
Charlotte.
Welcome.
Guys.